Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Welcome back to the REMINGTOM podcast. We're kicking back. We're having a good time watching some NBA hoops. But we did just see a commercial for a TLC show, and there's a character on there that I'm pretty sure looked just like Dan Orlovsky. Shout out Orlovsky. He might hear that and think that that's... and again, shout out to the people on TLC. You know, Orlovsky might hear that and take that the wrong way. But it's a compliment, Orlovsky. Don't worry. I don't think it was... You know, I don't think there's any tisms or pounds or anything to worry about. Like, I think he's doing okay. It was some kind of, like, you know, dating reality show. I don't know what it is, but that's, again, a compliment to Orlovsky, and it made me realize I never put Orlovsky in the category of, like, the hot guy quarterbacks. Again, shout out to Orlovsky. I'm not saying he's not a good-looking dude. Or, of course, Orlovsky, I don't think the boys would say Orlovsky's an ugly guy. I mean, I feel like it takes a lot for the bros to be like, that's an ugly guy. Maybe not a lot, because you'll roast a guy, but for like an actual guy to be like truly ugly, shout out chat. Let us know if you have any like truly ugly friends. Let us know what your friend groups look like. But for Orlovsky, like, again, there are like certain quarterbacks where, I mean, you see Jesse Palmer. I think that's the right Palmer brother that I'm thinking of, because it's not Jordan Rodgers, of course, you know, former, I think, reality star as well. But, you know, you see a guy like Jesse Palmer in the booth, and you're just like, there's no way that guy actually was an NFL quarterback. And, like, the thing is, you would still, you know, you think the wear and tear of being an NFL quarterback as well might maybe add a little something. What do they call that, chat? Patina? What is that stuff that gets on, like, you know, a little CTE patina on a quarterback? But no, not on Jesse Palmer, chat. Shout out. Pause right off the start. But, you know, again, it's just, I never thought Orlovsky in this category. I think, you know, maybe, you know, I don't know how deep the tier goes, chat, but Orlovsky's definitely getting, definitely in the mix now. I never considered it, but shout out. The man is the knockoff. He's either the knockoff version of the guy from the TLC reality show or the other way around. Somebody figure out who this guy is and what reality show I just watched. But I guess the game is Cavs Pacers, if anybody was watching that TLC commercial at the same time. So if anybody had the same thought that, hey, is that Orlovsky on TLC? But nope, just Donovan Mitchell and Pascal Siakam. You know, just a classic Tuesday night shootout on TNT. We're kicking, like we said, got a couple of NBA games going on. We've also got Hawks, Suns in the background. I think the only other game going right now is Thunder, Sixers. Yeah, and of course, shout out to the Sixers. I mean, that should honestly be the primetime game. That's the sad thing. I guess Kings Bucks getting ready to start up. The red hot Sacramento Kings, fresh off of firing Mike Brown. Unfortunately, Mike Brown, I mean, the REMINGTOM pod, I feel like we're super pro Mike Brown. We love Mike Brown, but what are the Kings like 7-1 with Doug Christie as the head coach? I mean, it's just what it is. But that game against Milwaukee is about to start. I guess Chicago Pelicans as well too. But Shea versus Embiid, Shea versus Maxey and George and all those guys going up against each other. That should be the primetime matchup, and it doesn't even matter. OKC up 15 at the half. They're gonna take care of business pretty easily in this one. Atlanta up by 2 in the first quarter. And I've been seeing the Trae Young stats floating around all day. So I guess I don't know if he just crossed over the 12 assist threshold, but he's officially now, I got to get this Jesse Palmer page off, chat. This is going to be too intense to start the pod. But I don't know if he just crossed over that mark, because people were now bringing up the stats of the 20 and 12 scores, and just in general, the 12 assists, I guess, per game guys. But I feel like Halliburton was in this range last year, so he was, I think Halliburton ended up finishing the season with like 11 or something. He might have been just under, honestly. Was Halliburton at like 11.9? Maybe it doesn't even count. But, oh yeah, he had that 2020 game the other night in Utah. And then he had 14. He's been double-digit assists, I guess, most games this year. That would be the case when you're averaging 12 a game. But let's see. Before the 20-point 20 assist game, he was at 22 points and 12 assists for that game as well too. So yeah, I guess he's been hovering in that range for a while, chat. Shout out. I guess he was at 11.9 last 10 days ago on the 3rd, and then had the 14, went up over 12, 20, and then 7. Wasn't going to bring it down from it. What, 20 and 7 divided by 2? That's still 12 a game, chat. I mean, just look at that rapid fire math right off the top of the head. We're locked in today to start. But, yeah, I was seeing a list of him. It's like the 20 and 12, and maybe it was just point guards as well, too. But it was when, obviously that'd be the position that would probably be most likely to average 12 assists a game. I would really only filter out Jokic at that point. But it was like Trae Young, Magic Johnson. There was an Isaiah Thomas season in there as well. And then there was a Kevin Johnson season. Shout out Kevin Johnson. Maybe underrated. Charles Barkley. It's funny, these teams in history, like shout out to Charles Barkley. You're like, man, Charles Barkley just taking some bums to the NBA Finals. It's like, well, Kevin Johnson was pretty good. Like, Dan Marley. Was Tom Chambers on that team? Was Dan Marley and Tom Chambers on the same team? I just remember Tom Chambers had like an insane... He'd be like one of those default dunk contest type guys. I need to go back and fire up the old NBA Live. Because, I mean, I feel like it's all the same from 2K to NBA Live. But again, the NBA Live that I have is like 06. So it's been a minute. Even though we were, junking that game for a lot longer than 06. But Chambers was indeed on the finals team. Shout out to the 92-93 Phoenix Suns. Just a classic team. Yeah, Barkley, Dan Marley, Kevin Johnson, Richard Dumas, the actor and small forward Richard Dumas, Danny Ainge, of course. How can we forget about Danny Ainge? Cedric Ceballos, former number 1 overall pick. Cedric Ceballos? No, Cedric Ceballos, far from the number 1 overall pick, but decent player. One-time All-Star. I guess there was a one-time something, and there was a number 1 associated in his career somewhere that we were thinking. But yeah, I guess 7th man for the Phoenix Suns. The year they went to the finals. Shout out Kurt Rambis, 5 games for the 92-93 Phoenix Suns. Apparently that's all it took, chat. They said we've seen enough. Kurt Rambis had to go. 34-year-old Kurt Rambis, though. Kurt Rambis was playing in 93. I guess he was in the... Yeah, I guess first year in the NBA was 81-82. I always thought he was like a 70s guy. But yeah, I guess he was in the 80s with that Lakers Celtics rivalry. The 80s version of it, I guess we should say. Because, of course, that rivalry, I mean, it's still going. But, yeah, shout out Kurt Rambis, too. Did they trade him? Oh, did they trade him to the Kings? What's a trade for a 34-year-old Kurt Rambis? What did a 34-year-old Kurt Rambis go for back in the day? Oh no, he was just waived and signed. Yeah, apparently he couldn't get anything for a 34-year-old Kurt Rambis. Not a hot market back in the day. They got him. They acquired him for 2 seconds. And Armen Gilliam, chat. There's a name. If you ever just need a name for some kind of name an NBA guy thing, and this is actually a guy, Armand Gilliam. They traded Kurt Rambis for a guy. The numbers. What were the numbers? What year was this trade? Wait, was 34-year-old Kurt Rambis kind of worth something? Because this Armand Gilliam, number 2 former pick, and then all rookie in 87-88, chat. 13-year career, averaged 13 points a game, 49% from the field. I mean, that's not bad. You can't complain about that. The year, I guess he got traded a couple of times, but, or wait, did he become one of the picks? Oh no, he was drafted by Phoenix in 87-88, but. The year he got traded, he ended up I guess he was averaging 9 points a game in Phoenix, and then got traded to Charlotte and averaged 18 points a game on 52%. So I don't know if Charlotte was any good this year. They weren't. Their coach's name was Dick Harder, and then he got fired. Dick Harder? Pause. Whoa! It's harder with a T, but it's hard to say, chat, and yikes, that is a crazy name. The 1989-90s Charlotte Hornets coach. His name was Dick Harder. He went 8-32. Make no mistake, the team was flaccid, but the man's name was Dick Harder. He got fired, and they brought in a Gene Littles? Little Jeans? Yikes, chat. They downsized. They went out and got some nice... They were just... they were just hooking up with just big old Dick Harder for 8 for 32, and it was like, it's just not cutting it. We're going to have to go nice, settle down with the Gene Littles. Something a little more manageable. Some nice boyfriend coach. But he was only 11-31, I guess. But shout out. Shout out the 89-90 Charlotte Hornets for bringing in Armand Gillian for Kurt Rambis. Yeah. And then Kurt Rambis unfortunately waived a couple years later. Armand Gillian also traded. But anyways, what were we talking? Oh, yeah. Kevin Johnson averaged 12 assists in a game like Trae Young is doing this year. Trae Young in the game in the background, of course, Phoenix Suns versus Atlanta Hawks. That season for Kevin Johnson would have been the 88-89 season. So the season right before they brought in Gilliam. So wait, Gilliam was the number 2 overall pick? Did they trade for that pick? They were 55-27 this year with the 20-12 season for Kevin Johnson. So he was cooking, and it was actually working as well too. You got to give him credit. 50% from the field shooting. Love to see it. 4 turnovers a game. I mean, you're 12 assists. You're looking at like 3-1 there. So I think in the way you break it down, it might not be too bad. But he didn't even lead the league this year. It's not even bulleted out either. So somebody was really maybe taking bets for the other team. But there was that Isaiah Thomas season as well. The OG Isaiah Thomas. Not the... I guess are they both OG Isaiah Thomases at this point? It's just what it is. But I guess Bad Boys Pistons Isaiah Thomas. I guess we don't want to, disrespect the actual OG Isaiah Thomas by maybe putting him on the same level, but just, they're both OGs. One's at least an O. But yeah, the Bad Boy Pistons Isaiah Thomas, whose middle name is Lord Isaiah Lord Thomas. He didn't just go by Lord Thomas the whole time. Lord Thomas III. That would have been crazy. His other nickname is Pocket Magic. Yo! Does that actually mean what I think it means? His nicknames, Isaiah Thomas's nicknames on Basketball Reference are Zeke, the baby-faced assassin, which probably also on Steph's nickname. Do they double up on the nicknames? Let's double check, chat. It's important research. Do they use 2 nicknames? They don't. So they eliminated the from Steph. So Steph is just baby-faced assassin. Isaiah Thomas is the baby-faced assassin. Steph Curry, of course. Chef Curry, Human Torch. Steph, I guess, technically a nickname they have listed. And Threesus? I didn't know he was a part of the Kanye family with the Threesus nickname. Yeezus. Threesus. We might start using that on here. Steph Curry, Threesus. But Isaiah Thomas, his nickname is Pocket Magic. I mean, I don't want to, start spreading rumors, chat, but I think, word on the street, if you guys haven't heard about maybe Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson's relationship, Pocket Magic is kind of a crazy nickname. That's kind of wild. But He was, again, in the Trey. I guess Trae Young is more in the Isaiah Thomas range with the 20 and 12 numbers. Isaiah Thomas in the 84-85 season went 21 and 13.9. So Isaiah Thomas was at almost 14 a game in 84-85. Finished 9th in MVP voting, but was on the first team All-NBA team that year. As well, 5 straight seasons of All-NBA, 3 straight seasons of first team. And then there was 2 second teams in there. And then Magic, of course, was the other. I guess there would have to be a Stockton a year in there as well, too, right? Been a pass on this body like John Stockton. I mean, that lyric wouldn't be out there if John Stockton didn't have a 20 and 12. He would have to have the historic feat. And, of course, Magic Johnson, I guess, Wilt Chamberlain of assists, maybe 12 assists. He did it. How many times, chat? Pause. 6 seasons. Yeah, and 6. I mean, full seasons as well too. It's not like he had the 80-81 season. He played 37 games, so it's not like that season he had some crazy number. And it's just okay. The shortened season. No, the lowest total for games played would have been 67. I mean, that's a full season, especially nowadays, chat. But 17 and 13. I guess in terms of actually doing 20 and 7 though, or 20 and 12, 20 points, 12 assists. He had that 3 times. 80. I guess I have it listed in order of most assists, but 88, 89. He was 22 and 12.8. 86, 87. He was 23.9 and 12.2 assists. And then in, I guess no, just those 2 seasons, because, yeah, he would have been 11.5 in the other one I thought I was looking at. So 2 times Magic was 20 and 12. And then Stockton, I imagine, did it. And I did look up Jokic as well, too, and I didn't see Jokic actually. Let me go back and double. I don't think I saw Jokic with a double-digit assist season yet. Oh, yeah, Stockton, of course, did it. I guess he did I guess the 20 points would have been the problem for Stockton. Yeah, because the 12 assists, I mean, that was just a normal season for Stockton. He had that like 7 seasons in a row here. But his highest point total, excuse me, chat, for a season would have been 17.2. I guess he did that twice, pause, and then 17.1 as well. And that would have been 88, 89, and the 90 seasons. That peak Stockton scoring seasons at 17 a game in the early 90s. But all these guys getting MVP votes as well too, which, I mean, you read the list of names, chat, not surprising, but Trae Young, MVP vote season. I guess, again, to get on the ballot to actually be in the top 5. I guess that wasn't the right way to put it, because there is no, it's just all write-in ballot. Is that the right way to say it? It's just open to whoever's name you want to vote for, I guess, for the MVP. Outside of the guys now, because of course, as of I think today or the last couple of days, but as of at least Sunday, at least Friday, I don't know, recently, chat, Luka Doncic anyways crossed the threshold for not being able, he's not going to be able to play enough games this season to qualify for the awards, the MVP, the All-NBA. And unfortunately, Doncic is now going to have a gap year like that on his resume, which should we just turn this into another LeBron segment? Because, I mean, you look at the years, chat, I guess is there even a year where he wouldn't have, all the way up until the first Lakers season, in 18-19, he played 55 games in that first season for the Lakers, kind of went south a little bit. And LeBron decided to spend his first season in LA, take advantage of the time. But up until that point, the first Cleveland run through Miami and then the second Cleveland run, his lowest games played total would have been 62 games. So that is kind of an interesting, I guess that was just the first thing that came to mind as like a easy, who's a retroactive history guy we could look up and be like, is there a season, LeBron, would he not be all NBA with the new rules in one of these seasons? But now, of course, I guess the only person that can dig up dirt on LeBron is academics. We can't do it on Basketball Reference, but so we wouldn't want to anyways, chat. Make no mistake. LeBron, we would take the secrets to the grave. Drake, put that in your next song if you want to. I feel like that's... No, taking money to the grave? I mean, we know Drake's not taking secrets, that's for sure. But, yeah, he looks fine. I guess, you know, Embiid... pause. Do we have to pause that for LeBron? But, Embiid... How many games? Can we just immediately take away the MVP season for Embiid? 66 games played? Did they... They didn't have that rule this season Embiid played, right? Was it the next year? Yeah, last year I think was the first season for that, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Steph was a guy, of course, last year that ultimately ended up hurting a little bit. He was at... Oh, no. Okay, I was wrong, chat. I misspoke. I guess 2 seasons ago, he was at... 2 seasons ago, he was at 56 games and made second-team All-NBA. So, yeah, see, that's a season for Steph where, you know, it would have been close. He had the 17-18 seasons as well, third-team All-NBA, 51 games played. So, Steph, I mean, hey, IT, cut this out. But is there a couple of... And it's... I mean, the thing is, you can't look back at those seasons ago. He wasn't not deserving in the 51 games of being third-team All-NBA. Like, literally, the only filter for him to not be on the team that year would have just been some other guy had an awesome season and played more games. It's just like, you know, which album do you like better? Which album do you think is better all time? Well, I guess I'll just give it to this one because it's, you know, it's twice as many songs. Is it more impressive? But I guess that's essentially what the new rule is now. It's like no, you know, limited project. And they don't really like nominate the 7-song album types that often for, I feel like, for best album. There was, I'm trying to think. I know like Alfredo might be like 10 songs, but still, I mean, you know, that's a full track list at that point. But yeah, I guess we're not going to just sit here and go through, you know, every guy's resume and see which award seasons would have been fraudulent under the new rules. But yeah, Luka now crossed that threshold, unfortunately for him. So he will be out of the conversation this year, but especially at this point in his career as well too. Like Steph, you know, if last year had been the 51-game season and he was not able to be on third-team All-NBA, you know, it still is a bummer for Steph. And accumulating those accolades and stuff, like, you know, you still need to be doing it at this point in your career, to be able to still stack up with, like, some all-time guys. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you got to catch, I mean, of course, Jordan, but, you know, now it's like LeBron's this whole other figure in there as well, too. You know, of course, Kareem and Russell's just got insane finals. Like, there's just guys with insane amount of hardware. You got to, you know, really put up some legacy to compete with these guys, of course. But, you know, if it just looking back through the history of a guy's page, you go, okay, a season in his late 30s makes sense why maybe he would get favored over, you know, maybe makes sense why he would be outperformed by some other guy, even though he himself would have an amazing season. And I guess, you know, you might still be able to look at this season and go, you know, Luka might only play, what, like 40-some games this year if we're lucky. But I guess I don't have it. Do they say what the timeline is here for the injury? They said, okay, so this update from the December 27th, so I guess a little bit ago, but he will be reevaluated in, I guess that's when, yeah, he got hurt, but 1 month. 1 month from the 27th. So 2 weeks from now, he's going to be reevaluated. And then maybe we see him maybe 2 weeks after that, if we're being real optimistic. I guess I don't know what he was dealing with, what the grades are for calf strains and timeline for recoveries and all that stuff are. You know, especially like, what are they saving him for the playoffs, especially after having kind of a lengthier playoff run versus just, you know, rushing him out there to get back right away, especially since they're maintaining as well, too. Like, they're still 5th in the Western Conference. They're still in that non-play-in game spot, which, you know, maybe with Luka, and Kyrie both and everybody's out there cooking and stuff, maybe there's a case where, especially if Luka's, of course, on a crazy Luka tear, that team is just going to find a way to be like a top 3 team in the Western Conference. But regardless, you still kind of want to be that top 6. I think is still fine perception-wise, at least for Dallas. I think for the just if you want to save face a little bit on the season, finishing in that top 6 is still an okay thing to do. But and not that I guess they have to save face until I guess something bad happens or playoff time. Everything seems to be kind of going fine right now, except for the injuries. But and they got the Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson was cooking the other night, so maybe you get him back a little bit. 7th in net rating on the season right now. Dallas looking a little feisty, but I forget what we were rambling off about Luka. Something to do about the 20 points, 12 assists. I forget. But anyways, I guess, shout out to Trae Young for being at that feat right now. And I was seeing another stat with him and Dyson Daniels. It was a couple of stats of just these guys achieving these high marks right now. I think it was the Trae Young assists, Wembanyama blocks, and then Dyson Daniel in steals. And Trae Young, most assists since Stockton, if this was the total to end the season. Wemby's the most blocks per game since Alonzo Mourning in the mid-90s. And then Dyson Daniels, I believe it was Stockton as well, too. Which, again, maybe the scoring thing wasn't there for Stockton. But, I mean, make no mistake, the man was a Hall of Famer for a reason. But for the steals thing as well, for Dyson Daniels, he was matching Stockton. So, I mean, again, Stockton underrated. I mean, Stockton, is he basically just Trae Young and Dyson Daniels mixed up into one player? I think of course, Trae Young's, 3-point shooting better than Stockton. And Dyson Daniels, just overall defensive versatility, probably a little bit higher as well, too. But, you get that well-roundedness with Stockton that was a little bit underrated. I guess we'd have to go back and watch, did they do the switchy type stuff where, a team would be hunting Stockton? Imagine, Jazz Rockets finals, or I guess Western Conference finals now, because I believe they actually played in the Western Conference finals, right? When Hakeem was making his run, or maybe in the Western Conference playoffs. But the amount of times you would just try to, get Hakeem switched on to Stockton and stuff like that, or just, you're going to try to be just switching him on to all the smaller dudes on the team in general. And that's, I guess, maybe we even have to just add that into guys like Hakeem's all-time status as well, too. It's Hakeem was actually cooking dudes at his own position, You go back and watch, it's Hakeem's cooking David Robinson, Shout out to the Spurs legend. And, David Robinson's an all-time great player, won a couple rings. The legacies are what they are, and we just have to talk about the history, the way that it happened. But, he was cooking Shaq. He was cooking all the actual dudes. They weren't switching on these smaller guards onto Hakeem trying to make his life easier and trying to foul trouble and do all this stuff. No, they're you got to go out and you pause. You got to, is there a better way to say it? You got to beat your man. Yikes, chat. That's crazy. There's got to be a better way to say that. But the problem is once you get a pause, sometimes it's just, stuck in your head's crazy too, chat. But either way, they didn't do necessarily, I think, and again, I not brushed up on 90s tape, but I feel if we would go back and watch, it might be a lot more of that. And in the 94 year, the year they won over the Knicks in the finals. You got to win over your man. That's how you say it. That sounds crazy too. That's a little bit of a pause, but they defeated the Jazz in the Western Conference Finals 4-1. Hakeem that series 28-10, 4.5 assists a game, 23 blocks in 5 games as well. Against Orlando, he was, Shaq, you hate to see it, but he was 32-11. And I mean, Shaq, it is Hakeem, of course. Shaq at that point just really just took the gamma rays and became full Shaq and morphed into the all-time player that he is. And, there's maybe even a case that peak Shaq, you would take him over peak Hakeem. But I'm just saying the case is there. I don't know which. That's just such a tough all-time debate, Chad. It really just is preference because again, you have the fact that Hakeem cooked Shaq in the finals. It is what it is. But just the physical dominance that Shaq would evolve into. But then again, you have like, some of Tim Duncan's matchups, maybe Hakeem. I don't know, Chad. Like Hakeem, it's because he has the 2 rings, and I can't even be the guy out here talking like this and saying that Tim Duncan, because Tim Duncan has 5 rings, Chad. But Hakeem's just, we're just saying Hakeem's an all-time scary dude. Like if there was an all-time finals matchup and it was Spurs Rockets and Hakeem was on the other side of Tim Duncan, again, as much as I love Tim Duncan, as much as I trust Tim Duncan to have, like, he's not going to get, again, shout out David Robinson, like Tim Duncan's not going to get shut down like that. But Hakeem, I'm gonna be shaking, chat. I'm gonna be a little nervous. Hakeem's gonna have me sweating it out, that is for sure. I am probably gonna be preparing for the worst if Hakeem is, again, like the total Spurs package. Maybe there's a matchup where you're looking and go, okay, I still believe in the Spurs. Like the Spurs were taking down LeBron James in the, they lost to him, of course, too, but they were able to take down LeBron. Like, LeBron was still a scary person to play against, obviously, but, they still had the game plan and the total team to be able to take him out. Like, I'm not saying that couldn't happen against Hakeem. I'm just saying, again, that legacy one-on-one matchup. Because everybody talks about, like, KG versus Tim Duncan. Like, Timmy don't want to see KG, and I'm not saying Tim Duncan was. I'm just saying that those guys did actually play against each other. And KG cooked, but, so did Tim Duncan. Like, we just never actually saw Timmy really face Hakeem. So there's... And I think, with all due respect to both those guys, Hakeem's cooking both those guys. Just, it is what it is. Like, Hakeem's cooking Garnett. He's cooking everybody. Hakeem is cooking everybody. I'm not saying that. Maybe Kareem... Like, if we're just doing let's be honest, chat, the one-on-one all-time center tournament is probably the most fun. If we're just doing, weight classes, the guards, the forwards, the big guys. The one-on-one, especially against those peak guys, that post play. Oh, chat, I mean, maybe it's just nostalgia. But come on, chat. You're telling me you don't want to see a all-time one-on-one tournament? Hakeem, Bill Russell, Wilt, Tim Duncan, Garnett, Shaq. I don't even want to leave a guy out. Bob Pettit, like, literally throw any era in there. Because that's the thing. You get that, the post play, it's like there's leverage to it. And, it is kind of like, is it kind of like the submission game, the ground game for UFC, where maybe some physical advantages could be neutralized a little bit? And obviously, like we're saying, you go to the post when you have a physical advantage as well. Like, you're going to, if you're a big guy on a small guy, you're going to use that to your advantage. But you can also get a guy like Brunson that knows how to use post play. And there's leverage and footwork and timing and deception. And, it's all involved, chat, and in that space of the game. And I think it would make for at least the cross era guys that could really make it work. Like Giannis would be an interesting one in that conversation because, it's such an interesting dynamic, and he's so much, I think, maybe faster than those other guys as well, that I actually think that would, in that tournament, it would actually prove like, oh no, the way Giannis plays is actually like an all-time level where he can get downhill, start, like, you think about it, like, again, to use the Tim Duncan example, that's another scary one. Giannis at the top of the key, like taking Tim Duncan off the dribble, is a tough matchup. Giannis taking Shaq off the Shaq had quickness, chat. Like, make no mistake. Shaq was an athlete. That's why he's one of the all-time greatest. But again, Giannis, I think and just his alien length, the alien wingspan that he's working with, like he's Dr. J, like expanded Dr. J, but playing in the center matchups, like physically. Giannis is Dr. J. Is that a good comp, chat? Do the old heads need to slide in the DMs and let us know if that's... And I don't know if subconsciously I've heard that one. I don't know if Simmons has thrown that out before, and I'm just recalling that without remembering. But that does seem like an interesting one, again, with kind of the... I don't know if maybe Dr. J was able to overwhelm people kind of the same way Giannis can. But You know, Jokic in that mix as well too. Like that's definitely the most fun. But Hakeem's got him and Durant are the two guys that I think they're just a little farther down the legacy rankings than maybe, again, if we reshuffle, it's like all-time draft. Who are we actually taking? Who are we picking to win the games? Make no mistake, Chad. If it's Tim Duncan and Hakeem on the board, and I'm only gonna be. It's not a snake draft. You know, I'm not sitting on the serpentine corner, the hot corner. Shout out all fantasy everything. You know, I don't have the double picks. I can't take Hakeem and Tim Duncan. And maybe it's a situation, you know, I got to take a guard, I got to take another forward, but that's a killer combo. You know, you're not going to go run drafting Tim Duncan and Hakeem, especially on a turn. Like if this is a 30 person league, like what did happen where I got Timmy and Hakeem on the turn? But you know, if I can only take one of those guys, make no mistake, I'm going down with the homies. You know, Tim Duncan's my boy. Like I'm taking Tim Duncan. It is what it is. But I would maybe have Hakeem over a couple of guys where you're like, you know, maybe the consensus legacy is over, and it's close. You know, they're again, maybe even if Tim Duncan is, because who else would it be? It would be Shaq, kind of in that mix. But I feel like you could kind of have, you know, again, maybe Hakeem over Shaq, like that's just close in the all-time ranking, anyways. And there's always something to a guy as well where, like, I always like where just everybody, I mean, you know, this is obviously part of it, but where just everybody unanimously respects them as the number one guy. Or just at least, like, you know, just the greatness that they played the position with that is just, like, totally recognized amongst their peers and amongst, like, everybody that followed them. And it's like the people that they played against look up to them, and then also the people that came after them, you know, are influenced by them and continue to build on what they led and what they left behind. And again, to bring back the album comparison, you know, it where you can kind of rank albums in that same kind of way where, you know, maybe an album, there are certain albums that maybe have impacted. There's like an in the moment thing where you're like, this is awesome. And then the impact, obviously, you know, for all time great albums, but you know, you get an album like maybe like Reasonable Doubt, you know, you start talking about Jay-Z's catalog and you go like Reasonable Doubt versus The Blueprint. And it's like, okay, maybe I get, because I was re-listening to these albums again, chat. Make no mistake, Jay-Z is just going to be in our top 5 again this year on Spotify. It's just what it is, even though we're trying to diversify and get a new list. But, you know, we were revisiting, of course, the Jay-Z catalog. It is what it is. But were we inspired by some recent events to like, hey, do we need to listen to the music before it goes away? But, you know, you get, of course, some of that Kanye, some of that soul sample, just that all-time production on The Blueprint. But the way Reasonable Doubt has just continued to be referenced, and not that, you know, take over and that stuff is, you know, not impacted the culture, not referenced, of course, and, you know, especially off of 2024 7-minute drill, and even now with, you know, Joey dropping the rulers back too with his, you know, references to that. But, you know, just like the way that, and maybe it's just the J. Cole influence in our rotation, but just the way like that Reasonable Doubt has influenced so many projects and it's just referenced so often. Like Hakeem is like that, where it's like, again, maybe, you know, and Bill Russell, like, I think is, you know, regarded as one of the great guys, but, you know, maybe there's and I guess we're just talking about centers as well too, but if you start opening it up to like the all-time guys, and I guess we don't want to start throwing out names of guys that, like, you know, are the people not talking about this guy, but, you know, it's like everybody just loves Hakeem, you know? Like, is just the unanimous love for Hakeem I guess, you know, Kobe's like that as well too, where, again, because of some of the Spurs-Lakers rivalries, it's like there was always a little holding back to, like, putting Kobe as high on some of the all-time rankings. It's like, you know, we gotta, and this is, of course, as you get older, you're like, you don't have to, you know, tear a guy down to build him up. We can just rank Tim Duncan over Kobe and say that's how we feel about it. But, you know, you're like, I gotta really lift up my guy here. Like, I gotta put some distance between Kobe and Tim Duncan on these all-time ranks. You know, Kobe and Shaq are giving us problems in the early 2000s. But, and I guess we were making lists that early, of course, not straight out of the womb. We had to, you know, take a couple classes first, learn how to work the pen, work the keyboard. But, yeah, just that like the unanimous love for Hakeem. Again, like we're saying, Bill Russell is like that. Like, you know, everybody, of course, like MJ is like one of those guys. Like everybody's still like, there's like kind of like a hard feeling. Maybe that's just Hakeem didn't win 6 titles on the rest of the league. You know, he only has 2 titles, so it's like you can still, you know, it's not like he wiped everybody's career like totally out of oblivion like MJ. But, you know, again, there are just certain guys where, you know, Kyrie, of course, gets a little bit of that. Where I think Isaiah is kind of like that, where everybody is just like unanimously like, and I, you know, like these guys like Hakeem and Isaiah aren't like, if we actually do the rankings, they're not going to get disrespected. Like it's, you know, it's going to be some crazy take, like kid from our generation that we have to like go, oh, you know, we don't own this person that's like ranking these guys above Hakeem this early. But, you know, it's like they're not going to get disrespected. But I don't know. It's just, again, at the park chat, I can just see my team, like that all-time team. It's like, how did I, you know, I got Hakeem and Durant, and somehow it's like, you know, it's maybe like a little off from what you would think on the list, but I don't know. Maybe we couldn't get Hakeem and Durant. It'd have to be like a 4-man league, but you know, either way, just our all like fantasy, that sounds crazy, but is Hakeem like, I guess this is a big drop chat, but like, is Hakeem like our number 1 all-time dream center? Like, again, like Tim Duncan's a power forward. Like, we just put Tim Duncan at power forward, you know. And I know Hakeem is a little kind of forward. They're both, you know, kind of that same, not really tweener, but tweener type position. But also, you know, Tim Duncan. Our guy Duncan played with 2 bigs for the first part of his career. So I don't think him and Hakeem would be a problem. And I don't care about modern spacing, chat. Those guys got some mid-range jumpers. We're bringing the spacing back out to 17 feet. Draft a couple of 3-point shooters, you know? I don't know. Do we mess our big board up when we snag Lillard later in the draft? It's like it started so good. We had Hakeem, Tim Duncan, and then what happened? They needed some shooting. They took Lillard. Shout out Lillard. We just meant like, you know, again, maybe like over Isaiah, but I think you could take Isaiah and get that sneaky 3-point shooting. Oh, NBA. So NBA now shout-outs. Halftime right now for Suns Hawks, and they're doing the, of course, top 10 plays from the other night. And they just had a play at number 6 that was number 1 on the ESPN plays that make no mistake, we were sweeping the lobby at work, and we were like, well, I guess we can just take a quick timeout and watch these top 3 plays on SportsCenter. But slow day, chat. It is what it is. But they had that Ja Morant layup from the other night at number 1. And this was all sports. So I know you guys tune into the Remington pod because you know we're going to cross-reference these highlights list, and we're going to make sure that, you know, we hold everybody accountable. But I'm just saying, NBA.com not valuing the Ja Morant spinning, whirling up and under layup versus the Grizzlies last night. At least not as much as ESPN was. Oh, wait a second. Oh, so they do have a Ja Morant play at number 1. Whoa! Spoiler alert, chat, I guess, if you guys haven't seen the top 10 plays yet. But it's the Ja Morant, like, 40 half-court footer. I guess should we know the dimensions of the basketball court a little bit better than that? But the near half-court shot clock buzzer beater by Ja Morant in that game, which it's crazy that Ja Morant had 2 top 10 highlights in that game and maybe still wasn't even the best player in the game. And not that Ja Morant didn't play an awesome game, but I mean, Jalen Green was dropping 40 points, Chad. I think he had 42 in this last game. Yeah, 42 on 13 of 18 shooting, 5 of 6 from the field. But, I mean, you could just see emotionally as well, too, the way he was battling back at Ja and really attacking. I mean, it's not even just like, you know, you had to read the body language. I mean, he was literally at one point, like, you know, chest to chest, like talking smack with Ja Morant. And, you know, again, especially in the fourth quarter and late in this game, I mean, he was absolutely fantastic. He was the best player on the court. And I think now the last 5 games, last 5, he is 31.6 a game, 52.8 from the field, 48% from 3, and 95% from the free throw line. So again, that was his last 5, but I mean, he's been cooking even a little farther back. Last 9, 27 a game, 48%, 44%, 88%. So again, he's just like tearing up right now. Those first couple of games was like really awesome, and then these last 5 games have been like fantastic, and they've won 4 in a row, back-to-back at Memphis. They beat Washington and LA before that. So, you know, LA, maybe you say feisty versus Houston, whatever, but it's still in the grand scheme of where they're at in the playoffs right now, and maybe what they're building towards. You know, that's a team that they should be getting a win against. And then Washington, I mean, won by 23. You'd expect nothing less. You got to see at least, you know, a 20-point margin of victory in a game like that. But yeah, back-to-back wins over the other team in their tier for the Western Conference, because of course OKC is, at least at this point, unless we see, you know, in future matchups, you know, these other teams, the Rockets and Grizzlies, you know, really give us something to go, okay, this is actually really something here that they could work for the playoffs and build on in a match. You know, there's a matchup thing here going on with either of those teams against OKC that is really interesting. Like, until we see that, of course, OKC is just going to be in their own tier, or until we see in the playoffs, maybe OKC, they're just playing differently or something. You know, who knows? But they're separated. Houston and Memphis are the 2 and the 3 seed. And Houston, I think, just showed that they are, at least, you know, again, on a matchup basis for the Grizzlies, that's a decent matchup for the Rockets. Like, I mean, obviously, you're not going to want to face the Grizzlies at any point, but they also show that they're not really scared of the Grizzlies. And maybe, I don't know if that's the Dylan Brooks effect, chat, but you got Dylan Brooks against his old team. Of course, you know, he's had the Houston career is now starting to form as they've run this back from where they were at last season. But, you know, and Jalen Green, of course, is, you know, a real kind of emotional player himself anyways. And I think same with Thompson. Like, they kind of all have, you know, kind of chippy on the shoulder type guys, and Udoka as the coach. Like, I mean, there's just a lot of intense energy on that team for Tina, the owner. Like, make no mistake. But, you know, and I guess I don't, you know, Dylan Brooks just, I guess you act crazy enough and you can get singled out as the emotional leader for the team. It's like Draymond, you know? Draymond, sometimes he gets criticized for kicking a guy in the nuts and losing the NBA title, but there's other times when he's making hustle plays and calling switches out on defense, and you're like, well, Draymond is the heartbeat of this team. You know, the Rockets showed in a game against the Grizzlies where the Grizzlies have been sort of that tough team over the last couple of years. The Rockets showed that they were kind of the tough team in that matchup, and Jalen Green was kind of the tougher player, and, you know, they kind of sized him up, chat, and were not scared and took him down. And again, not that, like, the Grizzlies would be a team that you'd be, I guess, scared of necessarily is not the right word, but they were not overwhelmed in any way by the matchup against a team that is, you know, more farther along at least. You know, still some young guys with Jackson and Morant and Bane, of course, but guys that have had playoff experience, guys that are, you know, established in the league. Morant as an all-NBA guy, we kind of know where their placement is at. The Rockets are still, of course, kind of forming, and everything's still evolving and coming together. But it seems like in that matchup now, chat, like the Rockets might, and, you know, the thing is with Ja still in a playoff series, and, you know, both these games, like Houston won by 4 and by 2 points. So again, Jalen Green was awesome. I mean, maybe defense, you know, there's some defensive stuff there that you can really look at as well with the backcourt that the Grizzlies are throwing out, and especially the options that they can go to. It's not like you're throwing in Kennard, you know. Are you going to throw Wells as like a stopper, defensive stopper? Like, he's a good player, but I don't know if he's necessarily like, you know, a locked. He's not like the next Dyson Daniels, you know. At least, you know, I could be wrong. We'll need to check the tape and see what the defensive eyeball test has given us for Jalen Wells, chat. We'll be more locked in the future. But that's a matchup where, I mean, obviously after this one, I guess my head still has to pause. You know, the head knowledge, we have to put the Rockets above the Grizzlies. But, it's still going to be tough to not give Morant the vote of confidence at the time. But that's now, the 2021 draft, that top 3 is really playing well this year. I guess top 4, 6, 7, 8. The top 8 from the 2021 draft, you got Cade, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Suggs, Josh Giddey, Jonathan Kuminga, Franz Wagner. Unfortunately, this was the primo draft for the Spurs. Sengun at 16. I mean, that's a draft, chat. Sengun and Jalen Green. And I know as of right now, we're not putting that on the all-time list. I'm, for team drafts as well, too. I have to go look that up. Can the Google AI give us a quick research for best NBA team draft classes? Because I'm trying to think like OG history. And this is probably going to give us like which years might be the best. But like, did the Thunder take Westbrook, Andy Baca in the same season or same draft, I'm trying to remember, chat. Yeah, see, this is going to require some actual research, unfortunately. Can we just go to like there was the Kareem draft. Maybe the year that, again, we're really way off from Jalen Green and Alfred Sengun. I think Sengun has a little bit of catching up to do from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but this is one of the only ones that I can think about. The 1969 NBA draft. Of course, Kareem is the number 1 overall pick to the Milwaukee Bucks. Of course, the best player in the draft. There really is no no comparison. He would really only have had to, MJ would have had to be in this class. But the number 1 scorer in the class, of course, Kareem. But Milwaukee also got the number 2 scorer in the class, Bob Dandridge, who you could say maybe, playing with Kareem, maybe a part of that. But I think Dandridge went to another team after that and maybe did he win a title in Washington? Yeah, he won a title in Washington at the end of his career. So, his impact was felt, the ripple effects of Bob Dandridge, chat, felt throughout the league. But that's what I'm thinking of, like that type of thing. Like, what's the best combination of players a team has taken in one draft? But 2021, Sengun and Jalen Green. This is in that mix because the Thunder kind of got all their players separated throughout. Again, they traded for Shea, and they got Chet in 1 year, and then Jalen Williams in the next year. They did not take those guys in the same draft, if I'm not mistaken. Chet was the 2022 draft. Oh, no, Jalen Williams was the 2022 draft. So that's another one. And unfortunately, the year after the Rockets, you combine that combo with the Shea trade is really, what has the Rockets lifted, or what has the Thunder lifted over the Rockets at this point. But even Chet is still probably the best. Chet's still the player that I would take out of those 4 players: Chet, Jalen Williams, Sengun, and Jalen Green. But Jalen Green might be the second best player now. And Jalen Green has always kind of had that thing of, how does he fit onto the team? Because he's definitely an elite scorer, but how does that maybe mesh when you bring in some other star players? And how does his usage, look? You get a guy like Amen Thompson. Is he going to be, a point guard on the team? Is he going to need the ball in his hands a lot? Is he going to be like an orchestrate everything type of guy? And again, just going forward and, maybe Sengun, how does that combo look as well? It's just, he's kind of a interesting fit potential guy for how you're going to build a team. But as the other guy, because the thing is, the other Rockets players around him are getting better as well, too. Like, Amen Thompson is balling out this year as well. Like, maybe he still could develop into that type of guy where he's your lead guard. I guess, of course, he's playing a lot of forward right now, but in the draft he was getting, and of course, at the overtime elite level, I mean, make no mistake, Amen Thompson, I guess, was going to play guard at overtime elite. Technically, he's probably going to be bringing the ball up a little bit, Chad, in that league. But defensively, he's been really good. He had a big block in that fourth quarter. I think it was on Bane. It might have been on Morant, though, driving to the rim. And he pinned the layup against the backboard. And it turned into a Jalen Green 3 on the other end. I think timeout Grizzlies as well. But part of that fourth quarter run. But these other guys around Jalen Green are elevating. The whole team is getting better. And, they've got the role pieces around him as well, too, where like I was saying, maybe the fit could get weird potentially if there was there's an alternate timeline fit weird version of it. But, they do also have the Tari Eason and, a couple of defensive. Who's the other guy that they have? Jayshawn Tate. That's the Ohio State guy. So sorry, we had, that name's not necessarily a name that we want to remember. But, they got a couple of those role player-y can just come in. And Amen Thompson can definitely play like that as well, too. That's why he's been able to be so impactful this year. It's just like, throw him out there. And you can see from his mindset as well, too, like, he'll just be out there. Whoa, chat. Devin Booker is, I think, talking to the ref, but I think he's really trying to just get closer to that chick on the sideline. Because make no mistake, chat, her tits are out more than our bosses on New Year's Eve. It's just what it is. But we'll see. What's the what's the Devin Booker relationship status right now, chat? It is what it is. Are we far enough into the stream to make that joke? Is nobody gonna see this from work? Yikes, chat. IT, cut that out. We're not trying to get anybody in trouble. We're just making jokes. That didn't happen. But yeah, chat. I guess spoiler alert. There's a baddie. Tune into Hawks Suns. I guess it's Atlanta, chat. What are we expecting? I guess either way, there's gonna be baddies courtside. I mean, it's an NBA game, but what's the? I know Charles Barkley might have an answer to this, but we know it's not true. What is the number one city for like least amount of baddies courtside? And of course, chat. No, is this a dicey conversation? Everybody's beautiful, chat. We have love for everybody on the BETSTAMP pod. We're just saying that, the stereotype, girl that might go for the NBA guy. We all know, chat, what that type of, girl looks like. I know it's not popular in these times, but, just like that kind of classic chick, that kind of classic old school look. Like, yeah, I guess, Atlanta and Phoenix is going to be, there's going to be a couple that popping around the courtside area. She's making a start. It's a good thing we're on the Zoom right now. But what city is not showing out in terms of baddies? Have they done a courtside cutaway at this Pacers Cavs game? Cleveland? This may be a yikes for the courtside baddies in terms of matchups, chat. On one side, I mean, Phoenix, Atlanta. You go Arizona. You're going, obviously, Atlanta. I feel like there's like a rotating cast of characters. There's like, every different home game, you could just have different baddies. But, what cities, chat? I guess, is there... Because the NBA doesn't really have like a Jacksonville. I guess, because Cleveland does have an NFL team. Like, what's the most random NBA city? Like, I'm trying to think, chat. Like, I guess is Milwaukee kind of, but Milwaukee's shout out to Green Bay, chat. But Milwaukee is like a. I don't want to just diss Green Bay, but like I was gonna say Milwaukee's like an actual city, but Milwaukee's a bigger city than Green Bay. I think that's fair. That's just math. That's not even a hot take. But is Green Bay the Packers, right? Like that's what Green Bay is. Is meat packing's crazy. But is industry like that a big deal in Green Bay now? The fact that it's a good thing that they dropped the meat out of their name, chat. The Green Bay Meat Packers. Yikes, especially after all this Diddy stuff. They would, If these other teams are changing their names, this would be the next one to go. But it would just be the Packers in 2025 anyways. But, yeah, I mean, you got the double New York. So you got 2 in Brooklyn, 2 in LA. The NBA has 2 in LA now. Like Charlotte, like everywhere the NBA has a team. I guess Oklahoma City would be the one, right? But even still, again, that's like a capital city. That's, it's still in the main city, even though maybe Oklahoma's not like a vacation destination necessarily. Unless it is like, sneaky. I don't know. Is there going to be like hunters or, the Cowboys are like, hey, man, we love riding horses down in Oklahoma. It's a great place to take the family. But Orlando, I guess, doesn't have a NFL team either. Sacramento's a little, Sacramento mid chat. Yikes. But, Sacramento's a little residential, to say the least. A lot of houses over in Sacktown. But, New Orleans, maybe they're not necessarily, like, fully wrapping their arms around this Pelicans franchise, but it's still, I think, a sports town. It's still like New Orleans. New Orleans is New Orleans. Still one of the mainstay cities. And especially in that area of the South, I'm in New Orleans. You gotta give it its props. But why were we talking about the weird cities, chat? What was the? Oh, the courtside baddies. Yeah, the courtside baddies. Oh, like Orlando is like a weird city. Yeah, I don't know. Orlando could have some courtside baddies for sure, chat. I mean, again, that is the vacation-y thing going on down there. A lot of tourists, but still, I mean, that's gonna probably attract the right crowd on a certain night. Portland. I guess is Portland. That could be kind of a sneaky. That could be a sneaky one, chat, for like a sneaky lack of baddies. I don't want to say anything about. We're not turning this into the. Charles is just beefing with San Antonio. We're just beef with all these cities. But either way, I guess if there's a person in the chat that wants to, help us do some field research on this, next time you're going to an NBA game, take some notes, Not that you're not taking the mental notes either way, but maybe slide in a DM. Maybe next time you're at a game and you're looking around and you're like, man, there is just a string of 10s on the court, on team visitor side over there. I guess, Lakers are in town. But, maybe just slide in the DMs. Be like, yeah, 5:53, third quarter, baddie spotted. Row A, seat B. And then maybe, we'll even just slide into the league pass if IT lets us see the DM in time and lets us know. But, IT, they'll probably just get crazy keep for themselves. But, yeah, Phoenix has jumped back out to the lead, chat. Anyways, there is basketball going on tonight, like we said. We also said, did we mention at the top that we wanted to maybe see what was going on in the college basketball world, chat? Is it about that time? Now that there's, really no college football games left, they're not going to actually play the national championship game, right? Ohio State versus Oregon. I think that game is. There's just no national championship game. Or not Ohio State versus Oregon. Ohio State versus Notre Dame. There's just no national championship game this year. But I did see that Auburn was ranked number 1 in the country. So, of course, we're never going to betray our Michigan loyalty. But no, where's our guy Janai Broom? Did I say his name right, chat? Again, we haven't watched a college basketball game yet this year outside of Michigan, so we're a little rusty. But it didn't see him on the box score tonight. Probably one of our favorite players in college basketball right now. Shout out. Yeah, okay. Still at Auburn this year. 17 a game in his 5th season. So he's still in like his respectable overtime length, pause. Like 5 seasons. If you see this on the box score, you're like, yeah, I mean, he's just been around for a little bit. Get that extra year in there. He just is a fan of the college vibe. Like this is a old school, respectable way to stay around. All-American last year. is just leading the conference. Leading the conference in rebounding and blocks. And again, putting up 18 a game. 54% percent again from the field this year. Last year he was hitting a little bit of threes at just a slightly more consistent rate, but you could see him getting that back pretty easily as well. So shout out Janai Broom. Hopefully NBA teams take notice. Again, 5th-year senior, back to the basket, 6'10", maybe a little slender post player. I guess maybe not all the way back to the basket, but you know, a little old school down low, kind of like that. Maybe not necessarily the skill set NBA teams are craving, but bring him off the bench, chat. 6-man scorer. Have a unit where, you know, maybe your bench unit centered around your big. It's not a bad thing. You know, do the Timberwolves do that with Naz Reid? Janai Broom, I don't know if he's going to give you the floor spacing that Naz Reid is going to provide in theory, but regardless, we're still in. Oh, I guess, well, unfortunately, we just missed that game. So, not much to see anyways. Auburn won by 20 over Mississippi State, though. Mississippi State, number 15 in the nation. Wow. So, Auburn at 15-1 is cooking. And I guess if they have Broom, as a 5th-year senior with this Auburn team last year, that was really in this spot in the regular season. And then, unfortunately, was just one of the... I mean... We picked them. I think we picked them to win the national title, so they were just jinxed right away and lost to Yale in the first round. But make no mistake, we're stubborn and we're not going to learn, and we're just going to pick Auburn again this year. We're going to stick with our guns. Pick Broom. But you got Bama at 4 again. Our guy Spears balling out. So I guess I don't even know why we haven't been watching college basketball, because the Bama Auburn teams that really got us hooked at the end last year that we really loved watching, a lot of those centerpiece guys are still on the teams, like Spears and Nelson, both on Alabama again this year. And I don't know if Grant Nelson was necessarily I don't know what his NBA stock will be, but they're down by why can't we do math right now, chat? 8 points. Minute 38 left, though. That one we don't have to do math. We can just read. So, ace that part of it. But 11 from our guy Spears. 2 for 7 from the field. Come on, Spears. Don't drop it this early. But we just need to get these teams into the tournament. We'll be chilling. College basketball, it's chaos these days. It doesn't even matter. And Cooper Flagg is in the league right now. We got who's the kid over at Rutgers? Ace Bailey. Dylan Harper. Why are they not ranked? Do they just not play today? Is Rutgers ranked right now, chat? I mean, this is how far off the college basketball path we are at the moment, that we just don't even know what Rutgers is ranked. And they're not ranked. Uh-oh. Do we have to get a little rookie check-in? A little college basketball primer as we dip our toes back into the field, chat? Let's see. 9-8 on the season. A 500 team. Some pretty decisive defeats in here. But Dylan Harper, he's leading the Big Ten in score. Dylan Harper's balling out right now. Wow, and they've played 16 games. Jeez, we are not keeping up. This is incredible. Lathan Somerville. But yeah, Ace Bailey. Oh, Dylan. Did we say Dylan Harper is leading? Or did I say Ace Bailey? But either way, it's really close. Dylan Harper is 20 points a game. Ace Bailey is 19 points a game. Dylan Harper on 50% shooting. Ace Bailey on 46%. And they're both shooting about 34.5% from 3. Ace Bailey, make no mistake, there's no playmaking going on at all with him. 0.8 assists. Was there like some Kobe talk with Ace Bailey when he was a high school kid? Or is that the guy that's a senior right now? I don't remember. Because I guess Bailey's from Tennessee. What's that guy's name? Dembasta? I just don't want to say it wrong. But they're not getting a lot of help either. Not from Lathan Somerville anyway. 7 points a game. Jeremiah Williams? Isn't that a stand-up? 7.5 points a game. So they're going to need a little help. And who knows, maybe the freshmen not quite able to close out games. But they did win their last game against UCLA. So that's something. Rutgers turned it around. I guess we're not necessarily rooting for Rutgers either as a Big Ten opponent. But, you know, we always like to see guys with a lot of hype and a lot of pressure. We like to see them live up. We like to see success stories. So Rutgers has a chance to be a success story. Why not necessarily root for it as well, right? We can be optimistic about Rutgers this year. That's fine. Well, what do you got? 85-81. Third quarter. 3 minutes left. Hawks, Suns. I guess this has just kind of become the game. No disrespect to Pacers, Cavs. And that game's kind of close too. But I think we're just kind of... The respect that we have for the Cavs at this point, it's just kind of a wait and see. I mean, they've just achieved so much through the halfway course of the regular season. Like, what would the second half of the season have to look like for the Cavs for us to really fall off on? I guess, and there's still a chance for matchups again against, you know, Thunder and Boston. So I'm assuming they would have at least one more versus Boston and one more versus... Oh, did they already play the two versus OKC, though? Let's see. But yeah, 33-5 at this point in the season. So I guess just in terms of, you know, I don't even know if they've already just locked in a playoff position at this point. But in terms of the title tier confidence that we would have for this team, like, is Boston really a team that we're just ready to put right above them? Because again, I feel like the motto all season was, from a narrative standpoint, not that teams had to unseat Boston, but, you know, they had to because they were the number one seed, the reigning champions, but that maybe it was actually a little bit attainable as well, too. Like, how scary just are the Celtics as a repeat team, especially. Like, that's just a whole different thing. A repeat team versus like, we saw what a hungry Celtics team was, and that was a scary team for a long time, and they finally, you know, were able to put all the pieces together and break through. But once you actually achieve that, what does the mentality of the team look like? And then that team's just a different team to match up against. So, you know, what does Boston look like going into this season? But they play Boston again on the 4th of February, the 28th of February. They've got the Knicks 3 more times. A couple times in April. They've got another OKC matchup in there. Is there a Houston? 2 matchups against Houston left. So they haven't played Houston or Memphis either, Cleveland, to match up against some of the other top Western Conference teams, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. They will play the first game against Memphis end of February, and they will play the first game against Houston on January 22nd. But they might actually just be my number 1 team in the Eastern Conference at this point. Again, I still don't know if I could actually... Like, I still might be like a Boston in 7 thing, but maybe I'm just picking Boston in 7 as, like... I know it's going to be a tough series to pick, and I'm just picking the best... I'm picking, you know, the most difficult version of the best team winning, kind of, to appease just kind of your mental going into the games. But Durant, I mean, you see the efficiency compared to Trae Young tonight. Trae Young, 8 for 20. I'm sure he's got, you know, 1 million assists as well, too. But Durant, 10 for 16. Picking his spots. Hitting his shots. We're not talking about his relationship with Kay Adams either. We're talking about his basketball, his on-the-court play. Did Quinn Snyder just take his phone out? I think Quinn Snyder has just checked his snap while Trae Young's at the free throw line. Or maybe he's just got a really, you know, one of those, like, narrow notebooks. Like, does he got one of these, chat? You know? Something you can stick in the back pocket? Because it was definitely phone adjacent in terms of size. So hopefully it's a playbook. Maybe he keeps notes in a Google Doc on his phone. Quinn Snyder's the first tablet coach. Have we seen that with the coach in, like, the NFL? Where they have the entire play sheet on a tab like that? Am I totally stupid, chat? Is that how just ingrained we are in the media and the technology and all this stuff, that if a coach actually just is holding an iPad on the sideline, that it doesn't even register? Because that could definitely be the case. The case could be that the coaches that have made the switch completely over to iPads, it's just so normal for me to see somebody with an iPad using it, recreation, business, whatever. Like, just somebody using an iPad is so normal that it doesn't even sink in. And the fact that a guy's using a playbook and the old school paper, you're like, oh, that stands out. That's new. That's different. Maybe that's just how, just how screwed we all are, chat. But I feel like a majority of the play callers, if not all, still have a play sheet laminated. And there's maybe a case, laminated, they're drawing notes and stuff, and maybe there's just ease of access. I mean, I'm sure there is of having it versus maybe a couple pages or two on a tablet. But, I mean, are we trying to save some trees or are we not, chat? What's the deal with the trees? What's the deal with the Amazon? Like, is the NFL going to wipe out the Amazon making playbooks? Like, what's going to happen? Maybe the full playbooks at this point, like maybe they don't send binders home. See, how does that work too, chat? Like, how do they send the playbook to a player these days? Do they actually still send him home with a full, like, 3-ring binder just full of plays? Half the pages are just like the holes, staple holes are ripped and falling out, and you're definitely going to lose like 2 or 3 of your 3rd and 5 formations because they're just going to fall out while you're carrying the binder home. But, you're going to learn most of the offense. You'll get the gist of it, and the quarterback will fortunately hot route it into something that you're comfortable with anyways, and you'll just get bailed out. But you'll be like over on the sideline like, oh, I have no idea what the play is. Then it's just the hot route. Oh, thank God. I don't even know if that's how it works, chat. But just in this scenario, that's what's going on. But do they send you with the binder, the Monica Bing style binder, or do they send you with the what the actual term for this used to mean, the PDF file? Can we even say PDF file anymore? Like, we used to have to say PDF file because, you don't want to start saying the other thing. But now it's like, if I say PDF file on here to actually talk about a real PDF, like, I'm trying to say, do they send PDF files to NFL players? And that just sounds like a weird thing to say. And, NFL guys are rich. Anytime there's money involved, you start, maybe words start sounding a little different as well, too. You start going, hey, there's trigger words here. What's going on? Like, what's the NBA up to? Who are they sending to these rooms? But no, are they emailing the playbooks as PDF files to the NFL players? That's what I'm trying to ask, chat. Don't cancel me. I'm just trying to say, is it a document or is it a 3-ring binder? How are they doing it these days? How has the technology evolved? Beal, a 3 off the rim. 20 seconds left. Down 2. Brad, what's going on? Trae Young, I guess not really the last shot. There's going to be about 0.9 left for the Phoenix Suns. A chance for the rare full court tip in. Oh no, they're going to have 3 seconds. Dribble it up, Iguodala. Full court. I don't even know. Chat, I got a hot take. They got to sign me to an NBA team just to take end of quarter shots. Because I will happily shoot 12%, and 12% might be good. I will happily shoot like 0.012% from 3 for my entire career and just take half court and full court heaves, because some of these guys miss these half court shots so bad that it's like, okay, either 1, you're not trying, or 2, have you act like what is going on? Like, that is the delusional type stuff. You're like, maybe I am a better 3-point shooter than Iguodala. And then, you get in an open gym and it's like nobody in your face, pause, Iguodala is just going to be splashing 25, 33s in a row. But sometimes the fact that you don't even get the back, well, I don't know. I feel like, and that might be too high of an expectation. Like, full court shot's a pretty long shot, but you got to be able to get by the backboard. And that's got to be your goal either way. Just put it up by the backboard, right? You're getting it in that range. Like, it's still all the same. Like, at the end of the day, you want the release point. You want that all to be in line to the hoop. Like, it doesn't matter if you have to, the form is weird and how you have to launch into your shot. Like, get that hand aligned with the rim and just make sure that release is smooth and put it up. Look at the backboard. How are you not hitting you're a pro three-point shot. How are you not hitting the backboard on a full court shot? I feel like sometimes that's all I do is just throw it just directly at the backboard. You get that kid in the gym that just starts throwing it football style, literally just chucking it straight off the backboard. Like that kid never missed the backboard too. That's the thing, is these guys will sail the shot 50 feet over the basket into the 40th row of the arena, just way totally off. And it's like, okay, I get that that's a 3/4 court shot, but it's still like, maybe a little bit closer than that. And then this, that kid in the gym that nobody talks to is just pounding these full court football style Pat Mahomes rockets just off the backboard. And you're like, bro, we're trying to play, trying to run threes on the half court here. And he's like, no, I'm going to hit one of these. And it's like, not with that low of an arc, you're not. But at least that kid is hitting the backboard. And every now and then, one of them's going to hit the rim just right. And it's going to be like, whoa. It's going to be a sketchy rebound there for a second. It's going to fire off quick. Pause. So shout out Iguodala. Anyways, I'm passionate about this, chat. I'm passionate about the lack of accuracy on full court and half court heaves in the NBA, and the NBA arenas too. Like, it's, a lot of times maybe even bigger than, what you're gonna get at like even a park as well. Like even a shot from like opposite free throw line to basket in some parks, like that might not necessarily even be like that might be like a half court ish, 2/3 ish type shot in the NBA, where you're like, man, I'm throwing this thing full court. It's like, well, yeah, but you're playing on a weak court. So I get that as well too. I get, it's a lot bigger than you think. Pause. But regardless, I think you got to be closer sometimes. Okay, fourth quarter for Hawks. Suns about to get underway. It looks like the Cavs are going to take down the Pacers. There's 2:08 left in that one, up by 12. Let's take a quick break, and then we will be back with some more NBA action right after this. Okay, chat. Couple of things that happened over the weekend. Do we have to say R.I.P. to Mike McCarthy's Cowboy tenure? We do officially, chat, because I guess not fired, but not renegotiated, not re-signed, parted ways, however you want to phrase it. The Mike McCarthy era in Dallas is done. I think no surprise. Of course, the jokes were made, which it's funny when you see like a joke account drop like an incredible like rules thing where you're like, and I not like reading the rule book all the time, but just with the amount of sports that, me and Sam watch, I feel like we know the rules pretty well for a lot of this stuff. And just, especially, with the amount of outside sports things that we're consuming as well, like with the amount of sports conversation that we take in for a lot of it, like, you learn, you pick up a few nuggets along the way. But with the whole like Jerry Jones McCarthy issue of the fact that you always hear about the coaches interviewing during the bye weeks as well, but it's just one of those things where you're like, well, I guess you do it because that's like your free time. It's like the player goes and visits the college team, goes back to his college team, and is on the sideline as an alumni for a game during the bye week because it's like that's his free week. Like, it's just always like, you interview during the bye week because that's your free week during the playoff stretch. But I guess, the fact that there is, and I didn't even look up what the exact like league rules are, but about, obviously like when your team is playing, like you can't be interviewing for head coach. So I guess like technically when your team is on bye like that, you have that free period, I guess, within the league rules to, I guess, if your team, because I guess your team can deny, the possibility of interviews if that's, how all that stuff works as well. But, if everything is open for you being able to take an interview, like I guess there is a legality window in those bye week periods where those guys are able to interview for coaching positions. And of course, if the teams that are good enough to be getting those first round buys, and a lot of times those are the guys obviously that are going to be the top coaching candidates anyway, so it kind of works out. Like, obviously, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn for the Lions in the NFC are going to be two of the top names for coaching prospects, so it would work out anyways that they would be available on that bye week for interviews. But because the Cowboys still had technically, I guess, a head coach, they weren't able to negotiate. And again, we saw this all on, like, it was one of the meme accounts, NFL Memes, Ghetto Gronk, something like that. Shout out to all of them anyways. But, one of those accounts was posting about the fact that because they waited till when they did to officially end the negotiations, or I guess, not just part ways and cut off the negotiations before the window was over, like they missed out on the opportunity to interview those guys. But, well, I guess, I think Vrabel is the only guy to have taken a job at this point with the Patriots. So, you can go back around and interview with these guys after the season, of course. And let's actually see if we can get like an interview tracker and see if interviews actually took place. I guess the Jets were interviewing some guys, but, again, for those two guys specifically, because you could still, again, all the other guys are still available at the moment, unless some news is fresh off the press, chat. Unless there is something that is just breaking. And we should go check the Schefter account. But I know, like, Pete Carroll has been interviewing. The teams have been making work, but again, in terms of, Jerry Jones messing up this opportunity, like, are we just clowning Jerry Jones to clown Jerry Jones? Or is this something where you're like, oh, I got to, keep this in the back of the mind? Like, this is actually, like, a super important rule. So, yeah, I guess of course, the Bears, for example. I mean, I guess, of course, this would have been the soonest that you could have done it anyway. So, yeah, I mean, they had a chance to interview both Glenn and Ben Johnson. And then, yeah, Kafka, the Giants offensive coordinator, I guess, I feel like they need to talk to him. what were your secrets with working with Drew Lock this year? But him and Pete Carroll both interviewed on the 9th. They interviewed their own interim coach on the 13th. Does this website just have the Bears on it? Oh yeah. This is just a Bears blog, but of course they requested interviews as well from Joe Brady from the Bills, Matt Campbell, Iowa State, Brian Flores, the Vikings, Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame, Cliff Kingsbury, Commanders, Todd Monken, Ravens, David Shaw, Broncos, Arthur Smith, Steelers, Adam Stanovich, Packers offensive coordinator. We know that they have a strong pipeline of offensive coordinator to head coach lineage there in Green Bay under Matt LaFleur. Joe Brady as well. Matt Campbell, the Iowa State guy, his name's back in the mix. Oh, Mike McCarthy interviewing on Wednesday. Like we're saying, the man is available. But, where was McCarthy? Where was his name? Kind of in the bigger picture in the last cycle when he was up. In the last time the Cowboys had a chance to get a head coach. Because, again, I was watching the immediate reaction to the Cowboys getting their head coach and the Cowboys needing to find a new one is, who is the potential candidates? But the guys that are just immediately named as the potential candidates and the guys that are immediately brought up in that conversation, like those are they're always the top name guys and they're always the hottest prospects and they're always the number one guys in the market. And, maybe some guys on the market that, not even, like Dion hasn't even interviewed for the Bears, right? Like, is Dion even a guy that other NFL, and, we're pro Dion on this pod. Like, you're not going to hear us say a bad thing about Dion. Like, we're going down with the ship, Dion. Make no mistake. Even if Nightcap abandons you, you can have an appearance on the Rem and Sam pod at that point. I don't even know, would it be 7 toes at that point? But can we even make toe jokes about Dion? Sorry, Dion. We respect you too much. I have to take it back and apologize. We're not Shannon and Ocho. Who do we think we are? Only Ocho can make jokes about Dion's toes. But anyways, mentioning another man's toes is crazy. But Ocho, what are you doing? But pause. But anyways. The Cowboys are always, they're expected to go out and pursue the hottest names on the market, and they're expected to attract the hottest names on the market because they're the Dallas Cowboys. But, I haven't been around, a super long time, just in general. So I haven't seen a ton of Cowboys coaches. And that is a part of the Cowboys history as well, too, is keeping coaches around for a long time. So, I don't know. Comparing Mike McCarthy to Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy, did they fire him too soon, maybe? I mean, where was Garrett at year 5 compared to McCarthy? I feel like Jason Garrett, definitely, those last 2-3 seasons were okay, maybe, we got to get a new move here. But, yeah, the last 3 seasons for Jason Garrett, he was 9 wins, 10 wins, and 8 wins. But I guess 2016, that 13-3 season, that was that. I guess that first year with Prescott really did save that Garrett job. So, Prescott is a little, I think Romo is a little older when Prescott took over for him. Prescott's 30 right now, 31. So I don't know. Romo might have been actually a pretty similar age. Is Dak Prescott entering Romo territory? No, Romo was 36 in 2016. So his last full season really starting was 2014, 34, played 15 games that year, made the Pro Bowl, and was actually third in MVP, but it's actually Romo's best season was 2014. Then, yeah, that 2015 season, 4 games played on the injury, and then, unfortunately, was in the booth very soon after that. Unfortunately, he was calling the Mahomes versus Josh Allen game. But, we did get Romo on the call for the Mahomes-Josh Allen game. Think about that. Think about when we got Romo with that timing of the Mahomes rise and get with all these quarterbacks. What if Romo was Aaron Rodgers just hanging out right now? Maybe, shout out to Romo. If that's in his heart, what he would actually want to be doing, we wish the guy all the best. We wish he would still be out there, but we like having Romo in the booth. I think is Romo. I don't know. Do we make an official? Maybe we'll do that with our player rankings, chat. We'll do when we do the player rankings at the end of the season for the NFL. Maybe we'll do a full announcer crew ranking, or we'll just give out like a belt. I don't know if we'll give a full crew ranking. Maybe we'll do a crew ranking, because an announcer crew ranking is not like a individual person ranking. You know, it's like back when Herbert and Staley, and Herbert, of course, he has his own question marks now, but like we're saying, question marks of him being, top 5 versus top 10. I don't think he's fallen out the list that far, but it's like, would you rather have Herbert and Staley, and now you have maybe this really big question mark at coach, versus, I'd have to go back a couple years ago, Arthur Smith, and I guess he was dealing with bad cornerbacks back then as well, but just the average coach quarterback combo, like McCarthy Prescott, for example. Would you rather have McCarthy Prescott or Herbert and Staley? Where, again, with Herbert's questions, maybe that's still even a bad example, but you get the potential playoff upside of Herbert with the downside of McCarthy. It's like the baseline of both McCarthy and Prescott for that Cowboys combination. But yeah, for Romo, for ranking the teams, it's like the Collinsworth and Tirico together versus Nance and Romo versus Aikman and Buck versus, I guess, do we throw college? I guess Herbstreit is in the NFL, so Herbstreit and Michaels. Uh-oh. The fact that we forgot to mention them, it's not a good sign for their belt case, but they're in the mix. The committee remembered to bring up Herbstreit and Al Michaels, so they will be in contention. But, it's not like we would be ranking Tirico versus Nance, because, there's like a multi-sport thing as well, too, where you get with some of these guys that would be different than just them on the call in an NFL game with their partner. What is that like in a ranking? So maybe we'll do a best announcer team belt. But, I mean, we all know Romo and Nance are going to be, of course, in the conversation, as they are one of the the 3 main teams that would be in the conversation. But, yeah, would we... I think personally... And I feel like we can say this because Romo got the bag in the booth, but I like having Romo in the booth better than on the field. Not that we would... Like, peak Romo on the field was fun, so I guess we shouldn't say that. Like, if we could still get some peak version of Romo, I guess Romo now is 44, so looking at his Pro Football Reference, like, we're not going to, probably be getting peak Romo years at this point, but, the end of the 30s there, could we have gotten a couple more seasons? That 34, 35, 36, 37. Cousins might go to another team next year throwing 40 mile an hour and get a shot. Like, maybe at 44, Romo could just step right in and throw 50 miles an hour. Who knows? But, yeah, anyways, going back to I guess we were kind of on the Cowboys there talking about Romo, but going back to the coaches anyways. Like, again, for the guys that we have seen in our, like, conscious NFL coaching days, because, I guess they would have gotten Parcells in 03. Technically, we're alive. Technically, we're alive. We're not fetus status, so we're not saying technically as, like, a, political argument, but, just in terms of us remembering NFL events, like, technically, yes, we're a toddler running around, but we're not necessarily recalling the Bill Parcells Cowboys run. But they would have had him up till 06. Memory still, a little foggy at that point. Maybe it's still a little more just kind of Colts, playoffs, AFC centric. And then, after that, we really start to, the memories start to lock in. Once we get to the John Kitna season in 09, things start to really get clear. But, after Parcells leaves in 06, I guess I was going to say fired, but I don't remember what happened again at the end of the 06 season. So was this another McCarthy situation where the contract was up? I guess 4 seasons of Parcells very well could have been. Contract is up, and I guess we can just see what happened. Shout out. Is this because I don't want to have Parcells pull a Seinfeld on me if I ever ask, Parcells, what did you get fired at the end of that Cowboys run? He's like, fired? I didn't get fired. There's a difference between not being re-signed and getting fired. Re-signed? That's me. I walked away. That's my Seinfeld. We're workshopping it, chat. It's definitely a new one to the rotation, but I wasn't fired. That one was worse than the other ones. Let's just stick to looking at Parcells' Cowboys tenure here. 2006, Cowboys signed controversial former Eagles wide receiver Terrell Owens. Keyshawn Johnson was released and signed with the Panthers. You couldn't have Keyshawn Johnson and Terrell Owens at the same time in 06, even if it's 06. That's just a crazy name combination. That's, again, one of those what-if teams. What if both those guys in their peak? But I don't know why they're starting off this Parcells section by mentioning the fact that Terrell Owens may have been known as a controversial player. But interesting. Oh, I guess because Owens was beefing with Parcells. Maybe we should just keep reading. Owens, whom Parcells never referred to by name, but rather as the player, was fairly successful with the team. In week 7 of the 06 season, Parcells decided to replace veteran quarterback Drew Bledsoe with fourth-year quarterback Tony Romo. The Cowboys were 6-4 with Romo as a starter. They finished the season with a 9-7 overall record, but failed to win the NFC East division after a 23-7 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles on Christmas Day in week 16, followed by a loss to the last place team in the NFC North, the Detroit Lions, in week 17. Yes, this was the old school days, the mid-aughts, all the way up until, 2 or 3 seasons ago, when the Detroit Lions still sucked, and it would have been considered, an upset. Last place team in the NFC North. Sounds about right. But they were able to clinch a playoff berth as the fifth seed in the NFC, eventually losing 20-21 against the Seahawks when in Seattle on January 6th on a botched hold by Romo. Oh, the original January 6th riots when Romo lost to the Seahawks. Yikes, chat. But Parcells would finish his stint in Dallas with a 34-30 record. No playoff wins. Inauguration's going to coming up. I don't know if that's going to get us in trouble, but accomplishments as Cowboys head coach was the development of Parcells' greatest accomplishment as the Cowboys head coach was the development of quarterback Tony Romo. He signed the quarterback in 03, helped develop him into a Pro Bowl. Oh, so he just retired? I guess that had nothing to do with the end of his tenure. That was literally just a recap, just in case you wanted a recap of Parcells' 06 season on Dallas. Here we go. Third retirement for Parcells. Parcells would have entered the final year of his contract with the Cowboys in 07 and had been facing questions all year as to whether he would return to the Cowboys to coach his final season with his 0-2 playoff record over 4 years as coach of Dallas. Many had begun to wonder if the game had simply passed him by. Immediately following the Cowboys' loss to the Seattle Seahawks, Parcells said that he was unsure if he would return in 07, and the rumors about Parcells' future escalated. On January 9th, the network Star-Ledger reported through an anonymous source that Parcells had contacted the New York Giants about their available general manager position. So yeah, that means Parcells was looking to do a little less work. Make no mistake, he was trying to pull Phil Jackson. He goes, can I just sit in the front office and not do something for a little bit? Pretend to scout these players. Maybe just throw on the national championship game every once in a while and say, drop that guy. But the Giants were not. Yeah, the Giants were not interested in Parcells' service. That's what it says here. So while we would bake on Parcells, of course, for wanting to go to the Giants to be their general manager and not do any work, we have to roast the Giants for not being interested in Bill Parcells, because I guess the Giants were at this point. This was a couple years from them breaking into winning the Super Bowl, and even when they won the Super Bowls, they still weren't like dominant regular season team. So it's not like that front office was ever getting like all the credit for building these monster teams. Like, yeah, again, they did build a 2-time Super Bowl championship team, but nobody cares. They upset a great team, so they really just spoiled history. But thankfully they kind of did in the moment anyways. We wouldn't in the moment we didn't want to see the Patriots just be undefeated. The Boston fans undefeated, like the Boston fans, it's if you win the title, it is what it is, but you're going to win a title and go undefeated. It's like, that's too much. Not for the Boston fans. Maybe there's another, like, if Detroit this year had gone undefeated and won the title, this Detroit team might be the most likable team in NFL history. If you suck for 100 years, fans will like you eventually when you're good. Like the rest of the league is like, okay, it's fine. It's fine, Detroit. It's your time. You're good. I don't know if there's, unfortunately, it doesn't like work like that in world politics where it's like, oh, okay, we'll just shift the empire over here. But in the NFL, apparently, you take a little time off from competing, and the rest of the league is not mad. But like, it depends, because like if the Browns got awesome, like the Browns have been kind of tinkering with decent though for a little bit under Stefanski. Like, you know, that with Baker they were in the playoffs. You know, they were in the playoffs with Flacco. Like, yeah, they were really bad for a large stretch of the 2000s and 2010s there, but they've been more like mediocre the last couple of years versus like Detroit. What Detroit had, like Campbell literally went from, I know he had that 8-win season in there. It was like 4-8 to, you know, 11 or 12 or whatever it was last year. But still, it was like that really bad season. And then they were really bad that whole first season, that whole second season under Campbell, until that back half of the season they took off and couldn't quite make us run into the playoffs there. But yeah, that whole first season and a half under Campbell, they were still at least losing games and had that stigma of the old Detroit Lions and being better. And yeah, I guess with Stafford, they had some seasons where they were competitive, but you know, even still, like Stafford was actually good. Like the Browns have built like feisty teams, but it was like clear that Stafford made it clear that the Lions were like, not that the Browns haven't made it clear that they're disastrous, but it was like the Lions actually have a franchise quarterback and just can't do anything with it. It's just, they're just gonna waste this guy's entire prime. But yeah. Anyways, the Giants at that time, you know, this is at least the one time in the franchise where maybe turning down this guy actually worked out, because post turning down Parcells, they would go on to win 2 Super Bowls. But Parcells the next day quickly refuted any interest in the position. Oh, no, Parcells was like, actually, I didn't want it anyways, stating nothing to do with it. Whoever said was a liar. So he was like, the pub did not go well received in the public. Yeah, it turns out I didn't want anything to do with the Giants head coach, general manager job. And I guess Parcells did work for the Giants though back in the day, so we can't say that. You know, Parcells was the Giants back in the day, so I guess that would make sense as well too, him going back to that team. But then he retired from the Cowboys in 2004. So I guess all that to say, chat, that yeah, the Parcells tenure just ended with him retiring in 2004. But you know, post 2006, sorry, but post Parcells, 2006 being the last season, I guess him retiring in the calendar year 2007. But after Parcells, you know, they go and they get Wade Phillips, who was there for 3.5 years, and then, you know, 8.5 seasons of Jason Garrett in 5 seasons of Mike McCarthy. So maybe, again, you know, it is this weird just Prescott wrench where you bring him in, he wins 13, they go 13-3, so you can't really fire Garrett at that point. And then, I don't know, even still though, at like 9-7 that next season, I feel like the conversation, we'd have to go back. Maybe I'm just giving us the benefit of the doubt for the Jason Garrett conversation, but I feel like the rumblings really started even the year before 2015 when they were 4-12. But you know, there's a long time there. It was like, what are they going to do with the head coaching position? And they just kind of stuck it out with Garrett, kind of stuck it out with their guy. And, you know, McCarthy was able to, you know, provide a level of competence there. So, you know, they could even have stuck it out farther with him a couple of seasons. Just go, yeah, him and Prescott, they'll do the Garrett thing. They'll probably, you know, if Prescott's there, are they another 10-11 win team this year and back in the playoffs? Like, you know, they weren't very good this year. So maybe they're more like an 8-9 win team in that kind of Burrow Bengalsy range. That would make sense. Like Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, kind of the Burrow and Chase of the NFC. I guess, is Rico Dowdle Chase Brown? Chase Brown, fantasy monster this year. So I don't want to disrespect Chase Brown's performances, but Rico Dowdle, I think, had a good couple months there at the end as well, if I'm not mistaken. But all that being said, chat, like, are the Vikings, why was I thinking about the Vikings? Well, Biden moment. Are the Cowboys actually like a premier destination for these head coaches? And I guess the ultimate reason for it not being that, you would just immediately go, well, I guess, would that be Jerry Jones, you know, making that actually not that high level of a destination? But, you know, all that, like, whether, you know, that would still be the end of the day result of that fact. Like, the why do I keep saying the Vikings? But are the Cowboys like a premier destination from the head coaches, like outside looking in, like viewing the Cowboys' job? Is this a team where we can expect them to land these high-level candidates? And, maybe looking at the landscape, again, like if the Cowboys market for head coaches, we got it that time without saying the Vikings. If the Cowboys market for head coaches is Bill Belichick, because maybe I'm just basing this off of the Stevens A list that I saw at work today. But if their head coaching guys options are like Bill Belichick, Deion Sanders, and Mike Tomlin, Tomlin's an interesting one because obviously he's a great coach, but you have to trade for him as well too. So that's a whole different thing about going in and giving up assets versus just kind of signing who's ever available on the market. But especially now with, Vrabel, who, me and Sam both really love as a head coaching candidate. We're not saying that he's not the top guy. I think he is definitely one of them. I haven't necessarily ranked who I would think would be the favorite, but what he brings to a team as well too in terms of driving a culture, there's a safety aspect to him where it feels like, if you're going to provide decent talent to him, especially if he's going to have Drake May as a quarterback, like they're probably going to be Burrow, like 8-9 win team at worst, if there's like real weaknesses on this team. And, the Bengals were, I think Mike Vrabel is probably right now a better head coach than Zach Taylor. I would definitely rank him above Zach Taylor. So I guess the fact that Mike Vrabel is, of course, already above average to really, really, really good head coach is, he's definitely the number one candidate because we've already seen him, have really, really good success in a tenure that ended kind of weird for him. But, now that he's off the board, number one actual guy on our list, but also the perception as well of getting that high-level candidate because, like Vrabel is the only guy with history. Like a lot of these guys either are new candidates or like Flores was, definitely had some moments where I think that team was above 500 one year, right? Or did they go 7-9? I feel like the one year that they were 7-9, it was like, hey, Flores. And then the next year they were 7-9. And it was like, oh, Flores, what are you doing? But, oh no, Brian Flores is playing days. No, Brian Flores, the coach. Let's see here. I guess Pete Carroll as well too has had the history, but he's also in that Belichick phase where he had maybe what were his years at the end? How important are you weighing those in the calculation of bringing him in compared to just going, oh no, we're bringing in Pete Carroll, the full legacy of Pete Carroll, and making that the head coach. But it gives me the win percentage here on his page, but not the actual record for the team. So in 2019 they were 5-11, but I think Tua was injured that year. But the next year they went, oh no, they had Fitzpatrick. Oh, they split time between Fitzpatrick and Tua. That's right, 4-3 with Fitzpatrick, and then Tua subbed in. That's right. They went 6-3 with Tua, finished the season 10-6. And then 9-8. So yeah, that's what it was. It was 10 wins one year and then 9 wins the next year. So it is a step back. And with a younger quarterback, you really expect to take those step ups every year. Tua was 7-5 the next year. So he was injured as well. You had those Tua injuries to potentially go, hey, did that hold back the season? And we also had the Tua history to go, maybe Tua's the type of guy where, he needs coaching to elevate him, but he's also, on the other hand, probably not going to elevate Brian Flores in any way, make him look better for sure, help his case, try to make him stick around. Like if Flores is looking at the landscape and he's able to land one of those jobs, like maybe let's just, the Bears and Jags, like ideally that's what you're going to get with Lawrence and Caleb Williams. I know those are still big question marks at this point for sure, but if you're looking at getting that type of job, like maybe you're saying, okay, the quarterback can actually, there's some safety there with that type of job. And maybe Trevor Lawrence can actually be something in the playoffs and down the stretch of his season that maybe we haven't necessarily seen from the guys that Brian Flores coached in Miami. But again, I don't know if there is like an actual maybe number one perception guy outside of Ben Johnson this year. But even if it is, like, I don't know if the Cowboys are the premier destination and are like a premier spot for a head coach. And again, I don't remember exactly what the Wade Phillips conversation was because Wade Phillips was a really high level coordinator. Like, I probably do need to put a little bit more respect on his name in terms of those early head coaching. And, I guess Wade Phillips was, there was some gray hairs on the Wade Phillips head when he got that job. So I guess, what do you consider the early days? But for us, anyways, the early days. And I think that was his first head coaching job, if I'm not mistaken. Did he have some, first head coaching job way back in the day that we don't know about? Let me see. Oh, no, yeah, he did. Okay. I should have assumed he wouldn't have just picked up his first coaching job at 60. I mean, maybe he would have. You never know. But 4 games in New Orleans at 38 in 1985, went 1-3 as, I guess, some kind of interim. He was 2 seasons at Denver in 93, 94. So the man tried to help out Elway. That's tough. The man had Elway and got fired. Went 9-7 and 7-9. Then in Buffalo in 98, 99, went 10-6, 11-5, 8-8 in 2000. And then not there the next season. 3 games for Atlanta in 2003, went 2-1. And then in Dallas went 13-3, 9-7, 11-5, and then 1-7. And they cut bait very, very quickly. And then unfortunately 2013 Houston took over 3 games, 0-3. Did not work out as well either there. Career head coaching record, though, still 82-64, so 56 win percentage. I mean, that's going to look good on paper anyways. The playoffs, 1-5, not great. But won a Super Bowl or 2 as a coordinator. I mean, definitely won that one in Denver, right? Or L.A.? Denver? And then long history as a coordinator in Denver. So he took over from the DC, got promoted from the DC to the head coach. And then I guess same in Buffalo as well. So a real homegrown guy worked. And New Orleans. The man just worked his way up everywhere he went. Shout out to Wade Phillips. The man just was, hustle and motivate, grinding on his life everywhere he went. Pause. But managed to eventually assume the head coaching role. I don't know. Maybe Wade Phillips, was there something sneaky going on? It's like either he earned his role or he was some Game of Thrones character just everywhere he goes, turning people on his side, getting guys out of positions, maneuvering his way to get to the top. I mean, his Twitter handle is literally Son of Bum. His father's name is Bum Phillips. So, I mean, being a bum in his bloodline? No, shout out. Rest in peace, Bum Phillips, man. I don't know. Was he a good dude? You never know with past NFL owners. I guess we should do a Wikipedia read before we should just say shout out. But, we always give people the benefit of the doubt as well before, I guess benefit of the doubt not knowing literally anything. If that's what I'm saying, I haven't heard anything, so I assume he's a good person. But again, is Belichick, Belichick had one potential job, and what was the report last year that he didn't make it to the second or third round of hiring with Atlanta? And again, maybe that's just Atlanta, NFL teams being stupid is definitely a part of it for sure. But is Dion? We actually need to go back to that tracker as well. Is Dion being heavily pursued by the rest of the NFL? And maybe again he should. Maybe the Cowboys are actually the team that would be a step ahead of everybody. And everybody, if Mike Tomlin's available, like we said, I would trade a pick or 2 for Mike Tomlin. Make no mistake, we're bringing him in if we can get him. But I don't know if the Steelers are going to do that. And again, that's just different, as a different type of availability from the trade market versus the signing market. So yeah, the Patriots knew that they were going to get Vrabel, so we can't really look at that interview process that well. But the Jags, up until this point, have interviewed Spagnuolo. So they took advantage of the break, of course. Like we said, only the Cowboys didn't. Spagnuolo, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Patrick Graham, the Raiders defensive coordinator. They also have scheduled interviews with Liam Cohen, Kellen Moore, Todd Monken, Joe Brady, and Brian Flores. And Robert Saleh as well. So no Dion on that list for interviews. You don't see him on the Saints. You don't see him on who's this other team that we just scrolled past? The Raiders, the Jets. I mean, the Jets are interviewing Rex Ryan and not Dion. Can we pull that Stephen A's list back up? Did they post it? If we don't follow First Take on Instagram, you might be seeing us live. Hit that follow. But there's no way they didn't post the Stephen A's list. So, yeah, the other two guys that he named were Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. So, make no mistake, Stephen A just tapping out and naming the two lines assistants, just going, yeah, top two guys. Let's put them at 4 and 5. Makes a ton of sense. But, again, Belichick, and like, if Belichick is your actual number one, like, that makes a lot of sense in people's minds as a big-name guy. But, is it, again, does it go down as a big-name guy that they can get? And that's no disrespect to Belichick at all. But, you know, like, if they have their choice between Belichick and Ben Johnson, they're probably, like, I would assume you would still, and maybe that's a tough call, chat, but I would assume you would go with Ben Johnson at this point, right? Like, as much as we love Belichick and he's the greatest coach of all time, I you know, low-key, I kind of want to see what he does in North Carolina. Like, I'm kind of excited to just see Bill Belichick in college. Like, it's just weird. Like, why not just give it a try? And not that to say, again, that he can't coach a competent team, for sure. Like, Bill Belichick, he's going to whip the guys into shape. Like, you know, he's going to maybe hopefully provide a sense of professionalism to the team. But make no mistake, he's also going to bring in his son and Matt Patricia. So the team's just going to win 9 games. It's just what it is. And I feel like you at least want to see what the upside of bringing in a young guy like Ben Johnson or, you know, Aaron Glenn. Again, if they can get one of those guys, I think they're probably going to do it. But I guess my point is, if you're Ben Johnson, you're not picking the Cowboys, right? And I just, the name brand of going to the Cowboys, even with Prescott, like, Prescott is, you know, maybe he has his questions as a playoff guy, whatever, maybe even, you know, he has his long-term questions as well right now, but at least as a stopgap, as a guy to have and run all, like, Prescott's, you know, top 10 in the league, top 12. Like, Prescott's going to play at a Pro Bowl level, like, right away for a good coach. He's going to make life easy on offense year one and bringing in your adjustment. And if, again, Ben Johnson is kind of a long-term guy, then that's just going to be a great bridge for just any coach that they want to bring in. Again, even if Prescott has question marks and has some long-term stuff with what might be going on there. And I guess, is his contract up this year, chat? I don't think it is. Is it next season? Because I know there's always contract talks with the Cowboys, but maybe that's part of it with the Cowboys as well. Like, is there a money thing? Like, does Jerry Jones not want to spend to get a big coach? Like, is that why they go out and get a guy like Mike McCarthy? Because Mike McCarthy, you know, is a Super Bowl winning head coach. So I feel like, but it's not that I feel like that does come with a certain level of gravitas. Is that the right word? Is that gravity? Is that the right way to say it? You know, that does come with a certain level of aura. Does Mike McCarthy have any aura? I don't think so. But, you know, you got to pay attention to that on the resume. Like, a guy who won the Super Bowl as a head coach. So, just in theory, it's not like you're bringing in a bum, but I don't think they were bringing in, like, the number one guy from that cycle. Like, Mike McCarthy was like, oh, you're really, you know, you're capping your team out at Mike McCarthy? I see. But, yeah, they have a potential out on the Dak contract after the 2027 season. So I guess, you know, trades, or if they just want to eat whatever kind of dead money is available, then, you know, they just go ahead and do that. But just I guess the next easiest potential out is that after that. So it would be the next 2 seasons then that, or I guess, no, they would already have the next season highlighted on here because for the Cowboys, we're in the off season already. Make no mistake. But it would be 2020. So we'd have at least 3 more seasons of Prescott. That out is, you know, where they would be taking that potential part. So, you know, you've got a little bit of time to go. We either have a guy where we know we can get some good level play, or, you know, we make a move, we get a trade, we in the draft next year or the next couple of years, we start looking in for that, you know, Jordan Love. I don't know if Jordan Love is, you know, the ideal model the way that Rodgers was, but, you know, you start looking for that next guy to take over for the Dak position that you can bring along. You know, maybe it's Texas to Texas. Is it like Quinn Ewers in the 3rd round this year? Jackson Dart? You know, something like that. But That is a decent spot to be in for a head coach like that. And Micah Parsons, like, I'm not saying the roster is not capable of that, but I guess, yeah, it is the Jerry Jones thing. Like, has it become a spot where even the other head coaches would look at this and go, yeah, I would just rather go for the Bears, Like, maybe, Caleb Williams is not as a sure thing right now as Prescott, and we don't have Micah Parsons on the other side, but the ownership thing there, and I just kind of like what we have going, and I just would rather work in that environment than work with the Cowboys going on. And again, maybe Jerry Jones is secretly not pursuing, like, a guy that might demand a higher dollar than the rest. Like, if he's going for Wade Phillips after, Bill Parcells, and again, what's the full Jason Garrett timeline? Is he another guy that, like, worked his way? Because I guess he was an interim for Parcells, or for Wade Phillips, that 1-7 season. But why did Jason Garrett impress so much that they kept him on? What was going on, Chad? But he started as a Miami quarterback coach in 05-06, and then in 2007 went to Dallas as the OC, and then 2007 to 2010 OC, and then just took over as the interim coach, and then was the head coach for 8 years. And then the offensive coordinator of the Giants for just that disaster. Was that even a full season? I got to be honest, I totally forgot that Jason Garrett went to the Giants. If this was a trivia night and there was like a shot on the line for how many teams did Jason Garrett coach for in his career, OC or head coach, I would have said one, Dallas. Would have been the only one I would have thought of. He was there for 2 seasons. It doesn't say how many games he played or coached, but it does say that they won 27% of their games while he was the OC. So my guess is he did not make it through that 2021 season. The Jason Garrett New York Giants run was not stuck in my mind. But apparently, just a meteoric rise as the offensive coordinator through the Dallas Cowboys system. Maybe, I guess, his being there as long as he did, he probably knew something about Jerry Jones. He had some dirt. He played for Dallas, and he went to Dallas as a young coach. Like, I don't know how he was able to maintain his job, but, what was his pursuit for the other teams as well? Like, does it say if Jason Garrett was, like, being interviewed by all these guys? Okay, let's see here. So it does say in January 2008, he interviewed for head coaching job of the Baltimore Ravens and the Atlanta Falcons, receiving offers from both, but ultimately opted to remain with the Cowboys. So I take it back, Chad. Jason Garrett was a hot man back in the day. Jason Garrett was on the cover of Sexiest Coach Available in the 2008 offseason. It's just what it was. Wow. On December 2008, Detroit Lions received permission to speak with Garrett regarding the team's head coaching vacancies. In January 2009, the Broncos. Oh, so he would have stayed with Dallas from the Ravens and Falcons as an assistant for the highest assistant salary in the NFL at the time. Okay, so again, the man just loved the Cowboys franchise. That might have been just a rare case. Detroit Lions received permission. Yeah, Broncos. Jason Garrett was also a finalist for the Rams job. But they was a finalist for the St. Louis Rams head coaching position to replace Jim Haslett, but ultimately the job went to Steve Spagnuolo. Wow. what a couple of great choices. Jason Garrett versus Steve Spagnuolo. They really narrowed that search down to the right two guys. Steve Spagnuolo. Got to give him respect as a coordinator. But Garrett back in the day as a offensive mind, I guess, was a big deal for sure. But again, that was that early, like, Jason Garrett was not a returning head coach or that long tenured coordinator at this point. He was that hot, young, up and comer type guy. So not that any guy like that this season might be like Jason Garrett, but he is a guy out of that mold and from that Cowboys system as well too. So I guess, they did have to pay him as an assistant back in the day, but I don't know, that's not like a legacy run of guys where you're like, the premier head coaching candidate or the premier head coaching spot in the league is the Dallas Cowboys. Because, it's like the Dallas Cowboys quarterback is like that premier position in the league. And, even though like Romo might not be the best guy, like Romo is still able to carry that position with enough respect. And I guess except for when he's fumbling in the playoffs. But, especially in like 2014, like Romo was playing at levels where you're like, yeah, Romo is the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. Like, that makes a lot of sense. And, even Prescott has had some seasons where you're like, okay, I get that maybe we all know where this is going to crash and burn in January, but he's in the MVP conversation, and he is in that biggest market, America's team, and he is, pulling off that pause, actually doing that impersonation of the Dallas Cowboys quarterback and being the guy and actually doing the thing. And the head coach, I feel like, is kind of like that, where it's like, you're the Dallas Cowboys head coach. But I don't know. To me, it doesn't even have that prestige. Like, do the Cowboys have prestige anymore, chat? I guess is the question. And maybe it's been long gone. Like, they've been, in terms of a competitive team, obviously not in the mix for, now, I mean, we can say decades now, right? It's at least been 20 years or so. But I just don't know if even with the markability still being where it's at and the franchise value and all the numbers, I don't know if the perception of the team, like, yeah, I guess the team is still consumed in a way. And is it just the memeability of the team? Like, is that why the team is, I guess, just to say loved in the culture? Like, I guess consumed in the culture? Maybe not. Again, I guess you can consume things without necessarily, being a huge fan of them for sure. But, is that why the Cowboys are so heavily consumed in the culture? Just because they become such, they're just a meme at this point. Like, is that just what it is? The Cowboys are just a meme, and they're maybe the most iconic. Like, it's literally just a live meme, because these other ones like live in time as what they are, and some of them even fade out. Like, the old Brian meme from back in the day, like the crying Jordan meme. Like, you don't really even see the crying Jordan meme anymore. Like, it's iconic. If somebody pulled it back out, like maybe this is it, the REMINGTOM pod. Maybe us mentioning it will revitalize the crying Jordan meme. I think we could even wait a couple years. It's like a reboot. I don't know if we need to reboot the crying Jordan meme just yet. I guess, would that be like a different version of it? Because I guess we had that No Sean Moreno crying meme as well, but they were kind of used similarly. So if we had another like player just, lots of tears during some situation, hopefully again in like a memeable way like that. Obviously, I don't think we would meme. I mean, maybe we would, but like the national anthem post LA fires. It's like, yeah, buddy, like, let it out. That's what this moment's for. But what was the MJ cry? Was that from his retirement? Like, yeah, you can clown a guy retiring from basketball. That's a big moment for him. But again, it's still retiring from basketball. Like, it's not as serious. I guess the No Sean Moreno was the national anthem, but still, it was just like national anthem like week 9 or something. It's like, okay, you're at like 400 yards this year. Like, I get it's a big moment, but I guess we don't want to trounce on the patriotic spirit necessarily over here at the REMINGTOM pod. Everybody needs to be on the same page, but No Sean Moreno definitely caught up in the moment. Maybe it was playoff game, big moment. Maybe it was Super Bowl. I don't even remember, but I feel like it was regular season. But the Cowboys are like the Cowboys are the meme that never goes away. They're just this eternal meme. So I guess that's almost, they've almost kind of fit that perfectly as well too with the coaches they've hired. They've actually, honestly, they've hired more like memeable coaches than they have prestigious coaching candidates. Shout out Mike McCarthy. Yikes. He won a Super Bowl and he was awesome with Aaron Rodgers. But it was like, we know what that move made so much sense for, again, them being a memeable team. Did it make a lot of sense for them ultimately trying to win a Super Bowl? Like, they were never going to win a Super Bowl with Mike McCarthy, chat. Maybe you say Prescott as well, but the combination of Prescott and McCarthy, like, yeah, 12-5 every year. And maybe actually there was one year where everything breaks their way and the Chiefs are actually really down in their luck and the Ravens have not been able to pay a bunch of the young guys that they have, and the AFC looks depleted. The Lions have moved on to another phase. The Eagles, like, maybe there is a phase where they keep this together, they get the talent, whatever. Like, maybe it does actually happen. But again, it's the Cowboys. It hasn't happened for 25, 30 years at this point. So honestly, do we just have to look at like who the most memeable coach is? And maybe it is honestly, go back to Belichick and Dion. Like maybe Belichick, the way he's kind of trying to open up a little bit and still do, like he was still on the Manning cast for the wild card game, just showing up. And I guess, they still have active guys. Like, guys still in there. It's not everybody's just retired with nothing to do on the Manning cast. I guess, you get sometimes like, it's like Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd's always going to be busy though. Shout out Paul Rudd, man. You're not going to hear us hating on Paul Rudd. But, every now and then you'll get a guy on the Manning cast. You're like, oh, okay. He's definitely free on a Monday night. But, Belichick's out on the recruiting trail right now. Belichick just got hired. It's like if he was like, hey, maybe the Manning cast is not something that should be high on my priority list as I'm actively trying to build this North Carolina roster out of nothing from what Mac Brown left over. No, shout out Mac Brown. Had a great run. But as he's actively trying to build this roster, maybe he wouldn't try to call into the Manning cast for the first quarter. But he's still out there. He's still grinding. So maybe with his sort of openness now, maybe we're able, and Belichick was even memeable as well too when he was a curmudgeon. I mean, curmudgeon Belichick was a meme himself. The Belichick walkout from the tunnel, I mean, that's iconic. So maybe we get a couple more moments with him like that. I mean, of course, Belichick on the Cowboys would be iconic as a meme. But maybe Dion as well. Like, and Dion, again, I love Dion. Like, I would love to see Dion go to the Cowboys, and if Dion interviews with the Cowboys, and I think I did see something on the TV as well that maybe they spoke to him. So, maybe they will actually be the one team that interviews him as well. And maybe that's actually the one team, outside before Shador gets, I guess they would probably hire the coaches before the draft, but, unless, it would have to be unless it was the Raiders, because the Patriots already signed their guy. Let me go back to the top of the draft here real quick and just double check. Unless the Raiders went to him and were like, we have the trade almost worked out. We're going to get that number 1 pick. We're going to take Shador. You're going to be in here as the head coach. And we're going to make this work. Tennessee hasn't fired their coach, right? If we have to ask, is that a good sign? But yeah, Cleveland staying with Stefanski. Daboll with the 3rd pick. Vrabel now with the 4th pick. So I guess the Jags with the 5th pick. But again, they have Lawrence. So maybe that would be the move, right? Would the move have to be trade Lawrence to the Titans in your division? That would be wild. In the division, swap, franchise quarterbacks at that point, because you're trading up to number 1 to get a franchise quarterback at Shador Sanders. Swap franchise quarterbacks, but then the Jags get Dion as well, too. Now, I'm not saying the Titans are doing that, going, oh, we're giving the Jags Dion, oh no. But I'm just saying that the hypothetical move of the inter-division swapping franchise quarterbacks would be pretty crazy. But yeah, outside of just that going to Dallas, the prestige of Dion, that would be, again, the media narrative of, after we just made this whole case and we just said now that Dion would go to Dallas for the prestige. But, just, again, maybe Dion would be the one guy because I guess he's not being pursued by the NFL. Just, I guess the idea of him being pursued by the NFL would be like, yeah, I guess we have to go to that team. But, yeah, I guess the home roots of him being there and the potential to him build that organization back to something would maybe intrigue him a little too much. But again, I don't know if they're going to be that. I'm sure they'll do as much hopefully they'll do as much of their due diligence as they can with these head coaching guys. Meaning, I think, is Ben Johnson going to have made a decision based on the interviews that he has taken? Is it all going to line up over the playoffs? Is that what he's thinking about? Like, did he also interview with the Jets as well? Let's see. It has. They interviewed Aaron Glenn. They did not interview Ben Johnson. They interviewed Aaron Glenn. But yeah, Aaron Glenn, same thing. Who would have, been another guy that we would expect him to interview for that job over that break if they had let McCarthy go. Like, are these guys going to be making decisions over the course of the playoffs? Maybe not. Like, are they? I don't know. Maybe they actually are. But, are they going to have a chance to interview those guys? Probably. Maybe they still get in the mix, but I don't think those guys are going there. Maybe I'm totally proven wrong and like Aaron Glenn takes the Cowboys job, because maybe I'm genuinely asking the question, like, are the Cowboys a prestigious job? Obviously it's not. Working for Jerry Jones is not the best position to be in. Pause. That's a pause. That is a pause. Jerry Jones has put his employees in all kinds of weird positions. We know that. Yikes. But are we going to get, if you don't see the Rem and Sam pod live on, Friday, business as normal, just know that Jerry Jones' estate may have tried to take us down. It's just what it is. But, yeah, Working for Jerry Jones might not be ideal, but just the Cowboys name. Is the Cowboys name still like a name that you think these other head coaches are dying? And maybe it's the thought of trying to turn it back around could be fun as well. Like, are the Cowboys the ultimate fixer-upper in the NFL? Like, that's for sure. But, you know, do you want to go, again, work for a fixer-upper where, you know, it's like almost somebody else's fixer-upper in a way? You know, you have to, it's a fixer-upper, but you don't get any of the ideas. Just Jerry Jones is just always telling you, like, what color the walls are supposed to be. And, no, I don't want hardwood floors. We're actually carpeting. We're bringing back old school. Like, and I guess, I don't know, is carpet back in? I don't know what housing trends are right now. I'm assuming we're still going hardwood floors, but I don't know, natural stone? I guess not with the wealth gap dividing. Definitely not hardwood. Fake hardwood floors. But yeah, Louis Riddick, what did he, oh, GM position for the Jets. I thought he interviewed as a coach. I thought I did see one weird coach ESPN guy though. Let me scroll through here. David Shaw interviewing for New Orleans. That's kind of a fun guy. That's not a name I heard brought up a ton. I guess is it just Thomas Brown being back in the mix? But again, I guess this would be for the Bears. I keep forgetting that. But maybe it was not that. Oh, maybe I'm just thinking about the Dion thing. Maybe that's just what I'm thinking that I saw. Was Dion for like going, oh, actually the Cowboys did reach out to him to speak. But I guess that's the only TV guy that's being interviewed so far. The Titans also have a GM opening. They did not interview anybody on TV as well. Same with the Raiders. They're not trying to run that back. Only 2 interviews. John Eric Sullivan from the Packers and John Spytek from the Bucks. Oh, you got to hire the guy named Spytek. John Spytek? That's a crazy name. I don't even know if I should say this because this is personal info. Well, okay, I'm not going to. Can I even allude to it, chat? I'm not trying to blow up some guy's spot. But I guess I feel like we don't have to say too much about it. There was some guy, let's just say we know that there was a part of some guy's email today that was Tech9 is all. But it was like worked into like a name type thing. And I was almost going to ask him, I was like, what are you, like some kind of operations guy? But yeah, I didn't want to get into, I didn't know what kind of guy I was dealing with. To be like, no, I'm not into Tech9s, brother. It's like, well, hey, I'm not saying I'm a big Tech9 guy either. I just, you know, kind of an interesting name, just trying to make up conversation. But yeah, you got to bring in John Spytek. So you're going to be like, that's not that bad. But, you know, it's jobs and stuff. And you start dropping people's names. But, oh, John Spytek also interviewed for the Titans. Did an interview for the Jets as well. The Jets need to interview Spytek. So the Jets need to interview him, and the other teams need to hire him. Oh, Mike Greenberg. Oh, Bucks assistant general manager, not Mike Greenberg from the Greenberg show. I don't think that would, you know, there are a couple of guys at ESPN. You go, okay, yeah, Louis Riddick. I think that makes sense. But if a talking head, I mean, that would be great. I mean, make no mistake. That would be a great door to break down. Maybe, you know, open up opportunities for certain people in the future. But can we get Sam a GM job? But, you know, the guy with maybe some former actual front office experience might be the one. But that's just all I wanted to say about the McCarthy thing. I was like, you know, it just gets viewed as like the prestigious Cowboys head coaching job. But just to go ahead and cut that right down, I just don't know if it's like if the Cowboys job. It's just like if the Cowboys job is offered to Ben Johnson, he's not gonna be like, oh, the Cowboys job, right? He's gonna look at it and go, what's this situation like compared to the other situation? And maybe that's just how you should approach it, anyways. But still, like the Lakers, I feel like would still have a little bit of that in the right now in the NBA, and maybe it's just because of LeBron being there, and you know, to just go ahead and end the stream on good old LeBron compliment. We gotta make sure that we're building you back up, brother. We got your back over here. Don't worry. We have to pause that as well, too. But, you know, we got your back in terms of public image. That's about it. Yeah, yikes. But, yeah, like, maybe it's just like, you know, you get to coach LeBron and be on the Lakers, and there's just kind of a whole prestige thing wrapped up with that. But, you know, do the Cowboys still have, like, any kind of name value to a position like that, Chad? I just don't know. So I guess maybe they do end up with a Bill Belichick, but it's just like Mike McCarthy and Jason Garrett and Wade Phillips as our last 3 head coaches. Like, who is, like, is it Ron Rivera? You know, that type of guy? Like, who's the other former head coach? I guess, again, Jason Garrett was kind of a hot young candidate at that point. But, you know, who's kind of the safety guy that is maybe done it before? Maybe, you know what? Maybe it's Flores. Maybe it could be Flores. That could be an interesting one. Former head coach, but, you know, that might actually be a good hire. And I don't know if Jerry Jones... Jerry Jones might not hire him for other reasons, unfortunately. But, you know, if he was just looking at the football talent, that might be one that Jerry Jones needs to make. Yikes, we gotta go, people. We've thrown a lot of accusations at Jerry Jones. The REMINGTOM pod versus Jerry Jones is maybe what we'll just title this one. But, yeah, I guess I don't even know. We said he was having sex with his coworkers and won't hire a black guy. But I mean, does that sound too far off from what we know about Jerry Jones? Okay, Chad, we gotta go. Hopefully, we'll be back Friday. Hopefully, the Jerry Jones estate doesn't take us down. Hopefully, the Cowboys have luck finding a head coach. Can we think of anybody else before the Jerry Jones lawyers contact YouTube and shut the stream off? Pause. I'm looking through the other guys that got interviewed. I guess Ron Rivera has interviewed for a couple of positions. Arthur Smith? I feel like it'll be somebody like that, though. And not to, again, I don't think that's a hot take to say that the Cowboys maybe don't hire the hottest name on the market. I'm just saying, like, maybe that's just what maybe is the best case scenario as well, is that type of guy. Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith is best case scenario for the Cowboys. Shout out. Maybe it's Doug Peterson, you know? Jerry Jones is like, he was good against us in the NFC East. I remember when the Eagles won a Super Bowl. Spagnuolo. Maybe somebody like Spagnuolo. But even like there's no way. That's a perfect example. Like, there's no way Spagnuolo would go to the Cowboys and lead the Chiefs, right? Who did he interview with? He did interview with the Jags. So that would be I think that would be a Trevor Lawrence thing, right? Let's see. Did he interview? He is. I mean, he's going to take the interviews, right? Spags, he interviewed with the Raiders. He's going to also, you know, he's got to do his due diligence to make sure that he has his leverage with the Kansas City Chiefs, even if he's in his heart of hearts, you know, if he's, hopefully he's not single or anything like that, but, you know, if he's going home to like a Miss Spagnola, I guess hopefully because I'm, you know, saying a Miss Spagnola. If he's living the single life and thriving, then shout out Bachelor Steve. But, you know, if he's going home to Miss Spagnola every night and like, nah, I'm staying in Kansas City, like, you know, hopefully she's not pillow talking with the other teams, giving out his info. But another just crazy accusation right away. But, you know, why would he leave Kansas City and Pat Mahomes to go coach the Cowboys with Jerry Jones? Like, I guess to take the head coaching money. But, I don't know, Chad. What's money at the end of the day when you're working for Jerry Jones? Pete Carroll? Maybe that's the guy to end this off on. Shout out, Cowboys fans. You're going to get Pete Carroll. Don't worry. Unless Pete Carroll takes that Bears job. So it'll be Pete Carroll to the Bears or Pete Carroll to the Cowboys. Go ahead and lock that one in. That one just clicked right as I saw it. I don't know why. All this talk, maybe it was the conversation that made me confident in seeing the Pete Carroll name. See, like David Shaw, again, another diversity area. Like, Jerry Jones is not going to do that. But like Cliff Kingsbury, like maybe that goes the other way, where Cliff Kingsbury might be a little desperate for the other head coaching jobs as the hot young candidate and go, oh, I'm actually willing to take the Cowboys job. And Jerry Jones goes, no, I'd rather have a guy like, you know, what we say, Doug, who was the guy? Arthur Smith, you know, who has been a head coach before. Or who was the guy we said before Pete Carroll, chat, that they were definitely going to get? Ron Rivera. Yeah, like, I feel like Jerry Jones would rather have a guy like Ron Rivera than Cliff Kingsbury, and I feel like a guy like Ben Johnson would rather go to a different team than Jerry Jones. That's all I'm saying. So maybe it's the same mental state that a Cowboys fan would be in, going, oh, Cliff Kingsbury versus Ron Rivera. What's the end result versus that? But it's just the upside of and especially I feel like the baseline for a Ron Rivera and Cliff Kingsbury team would be pretty similar as well too. But I just feel like it'd be that type of guy for the Cowboys. So shout out. I hope Belichick stays in North Carolina. Tomlin, if you go anywhere, the Cowboys could be fun because going 10-7 on the Cowboys and the Cowboys fans being frustrated with Tomlin, that could just be a whole, Tomlin being frustrated with the Cowboys fans and the Dallas media and then Tomlin and Jerry Jones. And again, is Jerry Jones going to trade for Tomlin? I just don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what conversations the Jones family are having about these head coaches, chat. It's just hard to tell. It's just hard to picture Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones at the dinner table talking about what coaches they'd want to hire. But either way, I guess this is the perfect time to take a break because it's or head out for the night because it's almost halftime in this Mavs-Nuggets game. And, oh, boy, the Nuggets are cooking the Mavs. So this might be, you know what? This might be like a TV on the big screen type of night and just NBA on the little screen on the phone in the background. This might be just wait for Kenny and Shaq and Chuck to come on later. Pause. And just have them in the earbuds. But we'll see. We'll be back later this week. As always, Rem and Sam Pod as usual. You can follow us on the socials at Rem and Sam Pod, of course. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. It's TikToking away right now. Only a couple of days for TikTok. But now there's talks about TikTok to Musk, which, once I heard that, I was like, oh, it took us the last 5 days, and was this the plan all along for Musk to just swoop in and get the number one algorithm app the whole time? Another just business for Musk to have now he's got the Twitter thing, now he's got and then would there be he would do some weird thing and merge them together. He would definitely change the TikTok name to just maybe T. I was going to say K, but I don't know if we can start putting Ks back out there as labels for things. So I don't know, maybe just a T, but then it's XT, XO is this merger TikTok Twitter app. And then it's what are you merging at that point? I don't know. We still don't know what's going to happen with TikTok at this point. And to be honest, we may not know for a long time, but you can follow us over there while it's still on your phones in America, on Instagram, on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube, just on the internet at Rem and Sam Podcast. We are out there if you guys like hanging out with us, because make no mistake, chat, we love hanging out with you guys. It's always a great time. We love having you guys on. So thanks again for jumping on.